into spring training thinking about? I know these trades still have to happen.
They still have to happen, right? So there's a lot of, to your point, moving parts, and how this all plays out will dictate a lot of that. I think the most important thing you can do during this time is communicate clearly and over communicate, and with the staff, but also with the players. And Heim has done a nice job of reaching out to certain guys and making sure that there's clarity to that, and they understand what we're trying to do and what some of the possibilities are. As a staff, you prepare for all of it. So as we get closer and we start to kind of really understand what it looks like, it'll help. Yeah.
Do you see a scenario where there isn't an incumbent and you just kind of have competition almost all over?
It's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, having competition all over the place is ideal, and having the depth to be able to do that is ideal. That's when you're good. So, yeah.
JJ Weatherholt specifically, what can you share? What have you heard from this offseason?
Sure.
I know it's only December, whatever.
Yeah.
What can you share about JJ Weatherholt?
I'll go back to our first real look at him in spring, and it was extremely impressive. Obviously, the skill set's there, the bat's there, what he does on the field, but the way he carries himself and his mentality, his preparation, his ability to take criticism, kind of implement the things you talk about into practice and then into a game is pretty high, especially for his age. But he was able to, there's like a quiet confidence to him that's impressive. And he was able to slow the game down for being up there for the first time and wanting to impress. He was able to slow the game down extremely well. So those are the things that stand out to me, even more so than his skill set. But you combine that with the skill set, and it's easy to get excited. Yeah.
When you look at JJ in the short term positionally, where does it like?
Just more so, I would think of it a little different. Just having the ability to play different positions, because it's harder to understand how this is going to all shake out. Yeah.
There's been more talk about players who might leave, but how much do you need a veteran pitcher, starting pitcher, to kind of anchor the staff?
Yeah, a couple different ways to look at that. Heim's been clear about wanting to add another one, and who that is and what that looks like, and kind of the resume that comes with that is an unknown at the moment. But what you try to do in the immediate is have conversations with the Liberators and the McGreevy's, and allow them to take that next step in their careers, not asking them to do more than they need to, but what it looks like to look more than just outside of yourself, and make sure that others around you are getting better. And both of those guys have the capacity to do that. So you're just continuing to kind of build those type of qualities and challenge guys in that direction. Yeah.
Going through what you went through last offseason with Nolan,
Sure.
does that make it easier with the Donnies and the Wilson, people whose name are kind of being bandied up?
They want to make sure that they're communicated with and they're cared for. I mean, just like anybody else, take this industry aside, like that's what you want. You want to make sure that you've done life with them for several years, and they want to make sure they're cared for and that they're communicated with, and that's the easy thing to do. So even in talking to Donnie yesterday, man, his head's in a really good spot. He's preparing extremely well. He feels good about where he's at, and he's handling. I mean, there's a ton of noise around. Is he going to be with us? Is he going somewhere else? He's handling that really well. He's a pro about it. So those conversations have gone really well.
As you continue to grow as a leader and a manager, heading into this year, you always say playing to win the World Series, because why else would you put on the uniform?
Sure.
But clearly, there's going to be some young players and
Absolutely.
such. Can you describe kind of whatever you'd call this, like give and take, balancing the whole thing?
It is a good balance, and the one thing you can't do is get frustrated with progress as you're trying to get to where you show up every day and you know you're going to win. And there's a progression to that. Our staff have all been in player dev and understand what that looks like and are passionate about that. So there's an urgency to win, and there's a standard that we'll keep, but at the same time, you can't get frustrated if you're not getting the immediate results that you're looking for out of certain young guys. You got to stay head down and make sure that they feel supported. They understand what this looks like as well. So there is a balance to that. Yeah.
One of the trades you guys have made already with Sonny Gray of the Red Sox. Your time with Sonny, what did
Sure.
you like about getting to know Nolan as a person and having him as a starting pitcher in your rotation?
Yeah, I liked having Sonny a ton, man. Even in talking to him after we made the trade, this is a guy that competes really well, prepares on a completely different level. I think back to the first bullpen he threw with us in spring training, just the intentionality behind it. He allowed others to see what it looks like to prepare extremely well, and then a lot of those young guys started to mimic it, which is what you want in one of your leaders. So I love the way he prepared and the way he competed. And gave you everything he had every time out. He communicated extremely well with me, so I enjoyed my time with him. Obviously, it fits what we're trying to do here in building for the future and getting some control in Fitz and Clark's with high upside there. So sad to see him go, but it fits what we're trying to do. And again, I would say like Heim's been clear on what it's going to take. Yeah.
From a fun storytelling standpoint, you mentioned on the radio that you had dinner the other day with Victor Scott and Mason Wynn. Was that correct?
Yeah.
What can you share about that?
Yeah, we were at AP's event, at Albert's event, and Mason was there, and we got to spend a little bit of time together. And Vic was there as well. And it was good. It's always good, kind of being able to. Both of those do a nice job with defense, but no, it was just good to spend a little bit of time with them, understand where they're at, how they're thinking about things, and both of those guys are going to be a big part of what we do moving forward, man. But they're locked in to what this looks like and what's needed. So I enjoyed my time with them for sure. Yeah.
When you look at that, I mean, obviously Mason is your starting.
Yeah.
You feel that you can say that same thing about Victor in center field.
I do want him coming in with that mentality. Absolutely, man. This is a guy that has, I can't remember who I was talking to this morning. Might have been AJ Brzezinski, but you look at his year offensively, and it left you wanting more, but there was a ton of growth in Victor and understanding what it takes to have success at the big league level, what preparation truly looks like, how pitchers are game planning specifically for you and what you need to do to be able to combat that. So when you look at his year, yeah, the numbers aren't what you want them to be, but you look at the growth in his preparation and where this is headed, and it's one of the guys I'm most excited to see this upcoming year.
Do you see other spots that are similar to that? I mean, say Jordan Elias.
Yeah, but different, because he's already experienced not having success going into an off season, kind of repeating, making adjustments at the highest level. So he's at a different spot in his career compared to Vic. I'm equally as excited, though. The conversations with him, if I were to put it in a nutshell, I think there's a level of maturity with Walker that is positive, where you're able to have a little bit more direct criticism and the way he's receiving that, and then being able to verbalize his side of what he's comfortable with, not comfortable with, and the adjustments needed are different than a year ago. And that's heavily needed when you're trying to make the adjustments that we're trying to make. So he's been really good about communicating with me, communicating with Brownie and Casey as well. But I would say there's a different level of maturity in how he's preparing and communicating. Yeah.
You talked to McGreevy and Lipitor, you mentioned that. Is it a part of like challenging them, telling them we need you to go here to here?
It's personality driven too, and they're not the only two, because you're doing the same thing on the position player side, and you're just challenging guys to take that next step in their career. But they both have the leadership qualities and capacity to do it. The last thing you want to do is have them focus on something that might be more than is needed. So you're careful about that, but our staff does a nice job with that. And both those guys have the capacity, though. Yeah.
What do you credit to Matt Swanson's emergence last year?
Man, first word that comes to mind is just confidence. This is a kid, like, he truly believes in his stuff. He's coachable, but he's also very confident in what he's bringing to the table. He was put into some situations that were challenging, and he never wavered. Like, he took the ball, the game didn't speed up on him, and it was impressive to be able to do that first time up at the big league level. So a lot of it is just his overall demeanor of closing games in the past and being able to take the ball in high leverage and still deliver. Yeah.
Is there anything he did? Because it kind of gradually seemed like it in high leverage. Was there one thing he did that made you think?
No, you just continue to kind of monitor their overall demeanor of when you do put them in a situation that may be a little bit more higher leverage than others, and how they handle that, whether it goes well or not. Sometimes when it doesn't, you actually gain a lot more intel, and he did a really nice job with it. So you continue to trust him. And then there's times in the season where your high leverage guys just aren't available, and you're forced to see what he's got in a real spot, and they do well there, and you continue to trust it. So combination of those things. Yeah.
What does Gorman's offseason look like? I mean, he's a guy who had some time, a lot of time at third, needs to be a little more mobile. What is his offseason?
Exactly that. Working on the mobility and making sure that his body's in a position. We were able to navigate the back a lot better than previous years, but to be able to actually have the agility needed to play defense, but also in conversation with him, I mean, he'll tell you where he felt like he went to the extreme on being able to get the ball in the air and hit homers, and finding that combination of hitability and power is important.
Example of this, what you were saying about like
Sure.
and the conversation you have with them, they both know they're coming in as starters, and you're looking for them to kind of grow in that rotation. With guys like Gorman, the other factors will be play for where he plays.
Yeah.
What are those conversations like this winter? But also, since everything now is like 12 months of the year, which is 24/7 preparing for spring. It's not like we're buying spring.
Yeah.
What do you say to guys who maybe there is a little bit of unknown where they fit?
We've been in this position. I mean, if you think of last year with Nolan and the conversations around moving him, there was that conversation of, hey, Gorman, be ready to do a combination of things, whether that's play second, play third, and that's no different. There's a lot of moving parts, and you have to prepare yourself to be able to do any and all of it. And he fits into that bucket where part of his preparation this offseason is ability to do that. Yeah.
Do you have more guys in that bucket? Would you say in this winter? A year ago it was kind of hitched to Nolan.
So one move. This year's a little different.
This year it's
Yeah. So we'll see. Still early.
Where's Herrera at for his recovery and
Yeah, doing plyos. He'll start actually throwing here in a few weeks. He's done a really nice job. So we've built a curriculum for him, and I give a lot of credit to our staff in Go-Go, our catching coordinator, Pogi, Surf, Pierpont, Dusty. I mean, those guys all came together to put a really detailed curriculum together to give him the best chance to go into this spring training with a lot of confidence when it comes to game calling and the why behind everything he does behind the plate. So he's working at it. He is passionate about it. He's bought in, and he'll have the best opportunity to show what he's got back there.
Do you expect him to be able to be full go and throw in when
I do. Yeah. Out of the boot and kind of, it'll be a long process, but yeah, he's doing well, recovering well. Yeah. You're an idiot. I love it. Yeah, exactly. I was expecting that the opening day starter from him. Yes. You were trying to beat him to it? Yeah. I was. That was my let's wrap this up. Yeah.
How excited are you to watch him starting the winning innings?
Appreciate it. Yeah, dale, papi. ¿Todo bien? Yes, it's a longer process from a recovery standpoint.
If you need transcripts from this, it'll be on the QR code on the back of your credentials in a few minutes. If you need transcripts.
He is recovering well, though, and our medical team feels really good about where he's at the moment.
Muchacho, venga. Espérate. Vamos a bajar.
It's happening. Good.
Para no canibalizarnos, para no canibalizarnos, preguntar al mismo tiempo, volverlo loco.
Me voy a volver loco, no, como quiera.
Oliver, te preparas para una temporada última de contrato y con un nuevo gerente. Háblame de esa situación.
Me gusta la situación. El gerente en Jaime ha hecho un buen trabajo. Ha estado con nosotros los últimos 2 años y en la forma que se comunica conmigo y el staff ha sido tremendo. Pero me ha gustado mucho la forma que nos tratamos y en la forma que él piensa del juego. Y le importa la organización y la gente que está en la organización. So, último año de contrato, eso no me viene a la mente, la verdad que no.
son un grupo joven también, Oliver. Sé que combinan varias piezas de experiencia, pero vimos lo de Scott, vimos la temporada de Wynn. ¿Cuánto sientes que ellos progresaron este año y que esa experiencia les puede ayudar a este año?
No, lo va a ayudar de una forma tremenda. Victor Scott no tuvo el año ofensivamente que quería, pero vimos mucho en the growth, donde este año creo que va a tener un buen año. Mason Wynn hizo un trabajo tremendo defensivamente y ofensivamente también. Es algo que va a seguir mejorando.
Oliver, te quería preguntar sobre un muchacho que debutó a final de temporada, César Prieto. ¿Qué te pareció? ¿Qué chance crees que tenga para el año que viene?
En los últimos varios años, lo que yo he visto en Prieto es sigue mejorando en la mentalidad del juego. Sabemos que puede batear, puede jugar diferentes posiciones, pero en la forma que piensa el juego, en la forma que compite, en la forma que ve lo que está pasando, ahora está comenzando, el juego se ve un poco más bajo control.
¿Sí? ¿Crees que tiene chance como bateador de estar en el nivel de Grandes Ligas?
Sí, él tiene la habilidad de hacerlo.
Mira, Oliver, en 4 temporadas tú has tenido un gran año, un bajón, un gran año, un bajón. ¿A qué se puede atribuir eso?
Entonces viene el gran año, ¿verdad? Nosotros estamos donde estamos como organización y Jaime ha hecho un buen trabajo en comunicarse de que queremos ser mejor inmediatamente, pero vamos a tomar decisiones que nos va a ayudar en los próximos años, en el año 27, 28, 29. Eso es lo que me ha gustado, que tenemos eso en mente y lo vamos a hacer en la forma que se debe de hacer.
¿Cómo evaluas la temporada?
Your time in Florida and then Charleston and then single A, which picks the mentor that just helps you along the way?
Man, I've had several in the game and out of the game that have really helped me in a lot of different areas. When I first got into the organization, it was coming through the minor league system. Obviously, Mike Schill played a role in that. Mark DeJohn played a very strong role in that. Gary LaRocque played a strong role in that. You look at the people that have poured into me from a front office standpoint, and Mo and others has been great. And then out of the game, man, there's been a lot of business leaders and CEOs that have come alongside of me and just taught me from a leadership standpoint what that looks like. So I've learned a lot from guys in the game, but I've also learned a ton from just the business world and guys that have never stepped foot on a baseball field. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Holly.
Yep.
John Kelly's up.
Thank you.
Don, it's your first winter meetings as a manager. How has that changed? What's the excitement level for you going through this manager's year?
Yeah, really exciting. First year as a manager, being here at the winter meetings, and a lot of great conversations going on. You see how busy it is and everything, but just really excited about getting down here and getting our group fully together, and looking forward to 2026.
So far this offseason, you guys have been connected to some higher profile free agents and some managers. Is that exciting? What are the discussions been when it comes to
Yeah, really exciting. We all know how much 2026 means, and a lot of discussions going on about building towards that, and started right after the season was over this year. Obviously 2025 didn't go as we had hoped, and really looking forward to 26 and just covering every avenue that we possibly can to try to improve the team for next year.
What do you feel this team needs to be where it is in 26?
Offensively, we need to get better. We've talked about that a lot. We need to get better on the offensive side. We need to continue to be really good on the pitching front. That's the foundation of our team, and continue to be really good there, and find a way to score some more runs to win more baseball games.
Are you confident that there will be execution in terms of being able to bring in some external additions to improve the offense?
Yeah, really love the conversations that have been going on, and can't speak specifically to any individual thing per se, but just a lot of great conversation, a lot of great things that are happening, and really with the ultimate goal of winning in Pittsburgh in 26.
You talked about the external additions potentially to the offense, but internally, you guys have like how
Yeah, we're always beating that up. I mean, and that's a daily basis thing. That's throughout the season, having different monthly goals as part of the process, and then continuing after the season was over, reviewing 25. And it's something that we do have to get better at offensively, continuing to have our guys get better, as well as look to improve the club in any way possible.
Don, do you want the offense to have a specific identity, and if so, what point?
Yeah, I think that what we talked about last year was, when we were really good, I thought we handled at bats really well. We continued to pass the baton. I know it was something that when we had those stretches of being good offensively, we passed the baton, we got guys on base, and then that 2-out, that big hit is the thing that eluded us a lot at times, and finding a way to get guys in their comfort zone in those big moments to come up with a big hit. Easier said than done, but continuing to push towards that for next year.
Do you see that as a comfort thing that needs to be changed, or do you see that as just get someone who gets big hits? You get
Both. I think that can come internally and externally. I mean, we've got guys that have stepped up in those moments, last year and in the past. And could it be somebody externally that comes in to do that? Of course it could. I think the one thing that, as I've thought about last year and going forward, is continuing to be aggressive, finding ways to push the envelope in ways, playing baseball the right way, running the bases aggressively to ensure that we're doing everything we can to maximize our chance to win. Yeah, more. I think as a bench coach involved on the fringes, as a manager definitely involved in the conversations. I mean, this is honestly, it's my first winter meetings that I've been to, so excited to be down here, excited to be, part of the conversation, and really, as we look towards building in 26, the things that we've talked about adding offensively is the biggest thing, and directly involved in those conversations as well.
Selling a player on dollars and cents, but also the opportunity. If you were just making the creator right now, what type of people are telling you about the opportunity?
Yeah, when you look at the team and the way that we're built with our pitching staff, there's some teams around the league that have good pitching staffs. Not discounting that at all. Totally believe that ours is at the top, towards the top of the league. I mean, when you look at Paul, Bubba Chandler, Mitch Keller, Ashcraft, Jones, Burrows, it's unbelievable the way that we have the starting pitching depth and the talent to be really good. And I think that it's something that gives us a chance to win in 26 with the right additions.
Tom, along those lines, you guys felt comfortable trading Oviedo. What can you say about the version of the pitcher that came back to you last year, and how he profiles at this stage of his career?
Yeah, I mean, Oviedo, I mean, what he went through last year, going Tommy John, and then the lat in spring training, and the way that he was able to come back and the competitor that he is, it stinks losing a guy like that. When you look at a guy that's going to be in the rotation, from our standpoint, in order to get Garcia, it was something we had to give up something to get something, and really excited about bringing Garcia back and the impact that he could potentially have in 26. And, the upside that he has is tremendous, and really excited to add him back. Obviously stinks to lose Oviedo, but excited about adding Garcia.
With Oviedo, the fastball movement profile changed, right? Like it looked like there was more carry on the fastball move. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, it was, I think that, I don't know all the stuff, but the extension and the way that the fastball played was a little bit different. Probably I know our guys worked hard on it with him to continue to adjust some things, and he did a great job of being able to make the adjustments.
You mentioned Garcia. What do you kind of like about just the possibility of him adding some power to the lineup in 26 and just the impact that he could potentially make?
Yeah, some big time power that he brings, and just the ability to be able to play all three outfield positions. Looks like he's a above average outfielder, and just the way I saw that double that he hit in his first at bat down there in winter ball, and the way that he hustled and ran into second, all the reports that we've gotten back in the video that we've gotten to watch, really excited to add a young prospect of his caliber to the team. Yeah, I think so. I think he can definitely go to center field.
Don't you look at a guy in O'Neal Cruz that he probably didn't have the year last year he might want. His ceiling talked about how sky high it is. How did the Pirates get him from what he was last year to that ceiling?
Yeah, he's O'Neal's working hard this offseason and continuing to work with him on the approach, on the way that he's approaching every single at bat. I think we saw the way that he got better in the outfield last year as the season went on, and his first full season playing center field. Worked really hard at that, and he's doing the same thing offensively now. Major leagues is tough, and as you start to go through those changes and teams adjust to you, being able to make the adjustment back, and we're seeing O'Neal go through that right now. He's having a great offseason and looking forward to him having a really good year next year.
Do the Pirates have somebody in the Dominican working with him? You guys sent somebody down there?
So he was down there with Raul and at the academy doing some stuff, and an external strength and conditioning guy. And he's been back in the States too. So I know that Matt in our group is in touch with him often.
Speaking of injuries, you saw Vogt's second base or another position option for him.
I think ideally like to keep him at first base. He's such a good defensive first baseman, but totally open to other ways. We played him at second last year at the end of the season. He's played second for Toronto. Just looking at any way to impact the team, ideally, he'll be at first.
First season, and a guy who has a ton of power, but a lot of swing and miss speed. You're trying to develop power while also trying to minimize the swing and miss. How do you balance that in players' development?
Yeah, it's easier said than done. It's up to, as we go through with the player and talking about the adjustments, we just talking about O'Neal Cruz, right? And the league adjusts back to you, finding ways to talk to them about their approach, what the other team is trying to do to you, and continue to challenge yourself and practice on ways to, if it's fastball, slider, swing and miss. The one thing that it seems with him is when it is in the zone and he attacks the right pitches, he squares them up and hits them really hard, and that's what we're really excited about. And as he continues to evolve and grow in his development, laying off those pitches that are outside the zone will be an area of emphasis for us to work with them on.
When you look at some of the top offenses last year, I'm thinking specifically of like the Blue Jays and Brewers. Teams had a lot of success in the regular season. Both had long runs in the postseason as well. The style of offense they played that mixed power off the bat, a little speed, but particularly a lot of contact. What takeaways do you take from that in terms of the direction that offenses are taking right now across the majors?
Yeah, it's interesting. I can speak more to playing the Brewers, and they did. They, the at-bats that they put up were really good, and that's something that we challenge our guys on too, is continuing to put up good at-bats, fight with two strikes, continue to put the ball in play. And as you continue to see the development with your guys, like it's something with the Brewers have done a good job of. It's hard to mix sometimes. They have a unique ability, speaking to the Blue Jays, to have that kind of ability to make contact and drive the baseball, which is tough. Milwaukee didn't drive the baseball, I don't think, as much as some other teams, but they had the ability to work the count, do that. Cleveland is another team that comes to mind in that regard. And can, for us to continue to work with our guys and, an offensive approach and an offensive identity of having tough at bats.
Donnie, with your catchers right now, will you explore another option with Joey Martin? Like, is first base an option for him to get both bats in the lineup? Like, how do you view the delineation of duties with him?
Yeah, Joe. Last year, in practice, Joey's taken some ground balls at first. Really see Joey as a catcher. But as it goes, we were able to get him in last year at DH a little at the end, and I think that first base, if he continues to take some ground balls, something that we could explore down the line.
Paul showed obviously a real desire to go deep in games last year, a lot of success in games. How much of the decision, how long at least you give him, is in your hands? How do you sort of think about that? Year three, he's proven he certainly can do it at a very high level, but he also wants to be mindful of where it can.
No doubt. in regards to Paul specifically, I think it was 160 innings 2 years ago, 133 in the big leagues, and then last year 187, 190. I don't know the exact number. Always continue to try to push Paul and other guys forward while taking into account their health, where they're at, and certainly a decision that we collectively meet on and talk about before every single game, and how we're going to try to, it's a team of people that we pull together and really talk about that and dive into it, into how to maximize not just Paul, but all of our guys. We had a bunch of guys last year, Ashcraft, Burrows, that were on innings limits, and just trying to make sure that we keep them as healthy as we can.
What does the next step look like?
It's been, first 2 steps have been really good. So all I know with Paul is he works his tail off every single day, and there's nobody. We get to see him start, and we've talked about this a lot. We get to see him start every 5 days. The 4 days in between is what separates him. The way he works, his commitment to his craft, the detail that he goes into every single day into making himself not just a good pitcher, but a great pitcher. He wants to be elite. And that next step, as far as he's going to let us know as he continues to push himself. And just his first 2 years have been unbelievable, and just really excited about seeing his development and him continuing to get better, because he does. That's what he does every single day. Shows up to win, and shows up to get better himself.
How confident are you that guys like Bubba Chandler, guys like Braxton Ashcraft, and Burns can take the next step too, and go even a step forward in 2026 after getting some experience in 2025?
Yeah, and I think that experience is what separates. When you see Bubba come up and have quick success in his first 2, and then hit a rough patch there, in his next 2 outings. That game against Milwaukee was a tough one, and then you saw the way he rebounded and responded. All of our guys, at Burrows had a tough outing in Minnesota, I remember, right before the All-Star break, found a way to bounce back, and he showed different glimpses. Ashcraft filled so many different roles last year in the bullpen, in bulk, starting games, pitching the 9th inning against the Phillies. It's pouring down rain, and we walk Schwarber to get to Boone, and he gets a double play to end it. Carmen Majinski started the year as a starter, goes down to AAA, comes back up in the bullpen and found ways to start relief. There were just so many things, and the thing that stands out to me is that when those guys got the ball, they took the ball and they dominated as best they could in that moment that they had, whether it was starting, relieving, closing, everything in between. It was really impressive to see the way that they all did that, competing, with each other, against the other team, competing against each other for starts and innings. And it was really cool to see. And like we were talking about, that's the foundation of our team. That's a competitive drive. And I think that, when you look at Paul and Mitch, they lead in that, and the foundation of the pitching staff.
Do you anticipate seeing Connor in the mix for the shortstop position in spring training?
Connor's going to get, we're still talking about a lot of that. It's too early to say, exactly what's going to happen there. But, as far as a 19-year-old guy that just came out of high school, the year that he had to go through 3 levels and play the way that he played, sky's the limit for him. The way, the talent that you see, the wiring, the way he goes about it, it's he's really, really impressive.
With Paul specifically, when he won the Cy Young, he kind of talked about how there's like 2 fields of people who want to go to Pittsburgh. Some people just want it as like a resume song. Some really see how special it would be to win in the city. He referenced you as someone who is the perfect person to manage in Pittsburgh. What do you make of those comments? How do you find players that want to win here?
I got chills, you saying that, because winning in Pittsburgh, for those of us that have seen it, is special. When you think about the blackout game against the Reds, and I was watching that game on TV, having grown up in Pittsburgh, seeing the early 90s and the success that the team had, that's what excites me. That's what drives me. That's what we're striving for every single day. When we're here at the winter meetings and we're up in the suite talking about things, talking about the adjustments, talking about the offense, talking about how to continue to build the pitching foundation. That's what excites me. And that's what, we expect. That's what the fans expect, and that's what we want to bring to Pittsburgh in 2026. It's certainly it's not about me. It's about the players, it's about the city, it's about the fans, and it's about bringing winning baseball back to Pittsburgh. I get chills thinking about it. Honestly, like I said, it's Pittsburgh's a special place, and it's a tough town, it's a gritty town, and that's the attitude and the identity that we want to bring as a ball club to the city.
We've seen increased willingness across the league to bring position guys up earlier. A lot of reasons for it. Benefit from increased athleticism and all the good range and all that stuff, but it's really, really hard to hit in the major leagues right now. How do you help a young guy who hasn't had a ton of experience in the minors figure it out on the fly in the major leagues?
Yeah, it's you're right. It is tough. It's tough to hit, and just continuing to work with them, continuing to expose not just him but others to opportunity, and continue to see, because referencing O'Neill earlier, he saw a way that they were going to pitch him differently, and finding ways to combat that, continue to adjust, and finding ways, specifically maybe with Connor, like finding ways to continue to hone in on his approach and what he does really well, and learn what the other teams are going to try to do to combat that.
I know Skeens is kind of an extreme example of this, but it's not totally uncommon for a guy to be in college 1 year and be in the big leagues the next, or within 2 years. Do you see that trend evolving in the sport, where it's becoming a quicker runway for those players?
Yeah, I think that the players let like they're going to let when you see a guy like Connor and Paul that dominate through the minor leagues. They let when they're ready to move, and Connor was this year. We got pushed really aggressively, and I think you take it case by case, but you are seeing younger guys get to the big leagues quicker, across the league, not just with us.
And there's been so much turnover in the managerial ranks in the last year, your club included, obviously. So, and you've seen very different ways teams fill that in terms of experience or backgrounds. What do you think makes a good manager in today's game, even versus in your playing days? Like, how's the world changed, and what do you think makes a good manager?
Yeah, interesting. I think that I guess in order to answer that, looking back on my career, guys that I respected, that I played for, Leland is the first guy that comes to mind, and just the care that he had about people and his commitment to winning, and how he blended those two things together. That number one, you never questioned if he cared about you, and that care might not come across as like putting his arm around you. He might kick you in the butt sometimes to really show you that he cared and try to get the most out of you. And then his commitment to winning, and how he went about it every single day to blend those two things together, is what really, really made him, and I think other guys, special. Yeah, he was great to work with. As far as I'm really happy for him that he was able to get that. Look forward to catching up with him live at some point. But really, we had a good relationship, and happy for him that he got that opportunity. Yeah, he's doing well and getting better. The rehab has gone great as far as timeline and all that. And, I think too early to really say exactly what that's going to look like, especially given the length of time even between now and spring training that we still have to go through. But everything's going well. Thank you.
Win 83 games. I do think getting into the playoffs, as long as our trajectory is going this way, that's good. I don't want us to be the feel-good story that, was a good little story, and, we fall back to our trajectory needs to be going this way. And as long as that's the case, and I think it is, then it's good. but I think we all got a taste of what it can feel like, to pop champagne, which is good. And then, a couple of days later, we also felt the sting of getting beat up 2 quick games and getting sent home before you want to. And I told our guys to remember both those feelings.
How, if at all, to talk about Kyle Schwarber, have you been involved in the process at all? And have you even been in touch with him?
I think the best way to address that question is I'm probably not on an island when I say he's a really good player and he's a really good kid and he's got a great reputation. Other than that, I'd like to leave it to him to speak about whatever he wants to, because I think that's the most respectful way to handle it.
What about how he could fit what your needs are?
He could fit on any team. He's gonna score over 100. He's gonna drive in over 100. And he's a team leader. He's a great guy, and I'm not in the minority saying that. A little bit, not a ton, a little bit. He was too busy beating us in the World Series. Pardon? Again, I'm going to leave those things to him. I think it's the more respectful way to go about it.
Kind of put into the side additions. How do you see through developing the offense taking the next step next season?
Well, we need to take the next step. Okay, and I do think there's some things in place, like Steer DH'd that first 3-4 weeks. He was supposed to be on the IL. He DH'd because he's a great teammate and a gamer, and he didn't hit a lick. And then when he started playing and he got his shoulder feeling good, he was a really good player. Okay, so hopefully we have that guy from the get-go, a guy that can play left, play first, play right, because that's valuable. I think McLean, and again, I know I was stubborn early on with him. It's just because I believed in him so much, and I still do. There's a really good player there. And I think being a year removed from that shoulder, I think we'll see that. So that's 2 things just off the get-go. And I think that's what happens when you have a younger team. There's still, like I said, that you hope the trajectory is still going up. Sometimes you have a team that's your real veteran team, okay, and that's okay, but you kind of are what you are, and you hope guys are healthy, and then you see how good you do. We're still trying to, like our pitching staff. We had guys that went through kind of for the first time that are finding out what they can do. Lodolo and Abbott, and it's, they're still going this way.
You talked about Schwarber in the clubhouse and all that. Was it like a relief from you, from Hakan, to be back just because you know what Emilio can mean to a clubhouse?
Oh, I was so happy about that. I think everybody talks about leadership, and I understand that. This was one of the best clubhouses I've ever been around, and I've done it for a long time. When you ask guys to not be late, and then when they're not late, that's meaningful, because everybody says it the first day of spring training. Everybody. And then it's like, if you don't live by it, it doesn't really mean much. And every day in spring training, we'd meet. They'd all be sitting like you guys are in those chairs. Nobody's eating breakfast. They're ready. That makes me appreciate that. They're an easy group to like.
You mentioned McLean in the last thing you're saying about obviously the shoulder killed him not being in there. What does he need to do, I guess, to take the next step and kind of grow from the year he had as a rookie, and obviously to grow from the setbacks he had this past year?
I think it's probably the first time he's ever struggled anywhere, and to do it at the major league level is probably kind of a hard place to learn. But he's a very competitive kid. In my opinion, he's probably our best base runner. I don't mean fastest, but I mean, he always knows where the ball is. He runs the bases like a veteran. He plays second base. He knows where the ball is supposed to go. The ball jumps off his bat way more than you would think when you look at his stature. Just, I think that shoulder, I think that, and you talk to guys that have had that, and they kind of said the same thing, like, I played, but it wasn't the same.
sort of mentioned him being able to move around again. Is that something you guys decided he'll do that again as opposed to first?
Couple things about that. One, he likes to do that. Two, it would be dependent on the makeup of our team. And that's, if he is moving around and still getting 550 at bats, we're okay. I mean, I hate to even use the word like utility with him, but if you're moving him around, but you're getting everyday production, that's really helpful.
Someone like Sel Stewart fit in your plans, knowing obviously you have some more roster choices maybe coming up, but how do you see him fitting and growing?
I think Freddie just went down to visit with him for a couple days down to Miami just to help him like defensively at first base. It's going to be interesting because we love the hitter. I mean, I remember all the way back last year in spring training, I think I told you guys I thought he was one of the most advanced young hitters I'd seen, and I believe that. I mean, rarely do you see guys come to the big leagues like that late in the year. He wasn't overwhelmed. Where his game goes defensively, we're still trying to figure that out. And I talked to him at length. It's been a while now, but about being agile, because people talk about his weight. I said, I don't want to talk about your weight. I want you to be athletic, and because he's a baseball player, and where that fits, we'll see.
The idea that because you were a minor league manager for a while before major managers, and it appears each team now has 4 to 6 players that are still in big-time development when they get there. Does that help you look at guys and really have a better handle on, I think personally, this guy's
I'm not sure. I hope it does. I mean, because you're supposed to learn from everything you do. But I just think the game has evolved, and guys are getting called up way before they're ever the finished product. And that's just the way the game is. It's not just us, but especially markets like us. It's going to happen. And if you think, okay, they're here, leave them alone, you're missing the boat.
Kind of almost tangential to that. Just Pat Kelly won the award today.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you, and how long have you known Pat, and what does it mean to have a guy like that?
Managed against him in Double A.
Yeah.
He really, he's the type of guy where, like, he was in Milwaukee the last weekend of the season. We really needed to win those games. And he's the type of guy I said, PK, God dang it, man, come on in and visit me. Like sometimes you're trying to keep people at arm's length. He's the kind of guy you're like, hey, come on in, man, let's visit. Because you ask him something, he tells you the truth, and he's got a great feel. We're really fortunate. Yeah, so I was literally just texting him like half hour ago. A what?
Perfect fit. When you talk about how much you like this group, does that sort of turn that chronological calendar? You look like you're doomed to get back. I don't know if at 45 you thought you'd be doing this 21 years later.
I didn't even think I'd be alive. Still. You know what? Okay. When I went to Cleveland, I think a lot of people were kind of surprised, and they kind of like, man, what are you doing? And because I've never been accused of being the smartest person. I know that, but I did it for the right reasons. And the same thing here. When I met Nick and Brad, I immediately kind of bonded with them. And yeah, I love our players. It doesn't mean we don't have tough conversations. Doesn't mean we don't have tough days, but I enjoy the hell out of them. And at this point in life, I don't want to do something that I don't want to do. Doesn't seem very advantageous.
You mentioned a few guys. You mentioned a few guys in the offense. Ellie, when you look back at his second half and then heading into next year, do you feel like just keeping him fresher can lead to a better year for him?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of things going on. I think I need to take responsibility, and I have, and I will. And, I need to find ways to get him off his feet from time to time. and I didn't do a very good job of that, and I own up to that. I love the fact that he wants to play, and he's one of the rare guys where he can bring energy every day, which is pretty amazing. But saying that, he gets beat up so much. Sometimes that day game after a night game might be really helpful for him. And I think the same thing like with Friedel. Like there was a time, and it was when Benson was in AAA, and TJ was kind of beat up. So it was really, and we had just started playing Marte. So it was kind of hard. We put Marte in center once, but it just wasn't quite ready to do that. That TJ was going out there, and that was, he clutched up for us, but I thought it was putting a lot on him.
You start to think about your ball strike challenge strategy for your team.
No, but I've asked, like PK, we were talking about Pat Kelly. I did talk to him. Well, I have thought about it, but we have a camp in early January. I think they call it Battery Camp, but got a lot of our player development people out there, and that is one of the things on the agenda is to talk about it. Very, very.
And every team probably be a little different.
My guess is most of the teams will not allow the pitchers to do it. That will be my guess.
Knowing that there's still a lot of things that can happen, how do you see the outfield right now? Because it just seems like there's guys, but it's not a clear-ish picture.
Well, we want Marte. I don't think we've been pretty clear. We want Marte to play, and I think we all think he's going to be a pretty good right fielder. TJ is fine in center, and then what we do in left, I think is to kind of be determined. So often one signing sets off where you move, like, where's Luxie go? Or, we had Austin Hayes last year. So we just need to see how things play out.
How are you kind of doing that with Marte this offseason? I know you mentioned the full spring training. It is new. Is there anything you guys are doing in the offseason or asking him to do?
Yeah, to go to center when he takes balls, take some balls out there. If for no other reason, it's really good for you. Seeing balls go both ways, I think as long as you can do it physically, it's really good. And I think it's freed him up so much. If you look from one year to the next, what a turnaround in his journey. And I think it's going to get better. There's bumps in the road with, there's going to be, but he's easy to like.
More question following up on Jesse's question about the ABS system. How do you take the emotion away from the player that they always feel they're right and the ball is right, and letting them make that decision?
Well, that's kind of what I was referring to with the pitchers, because I've never seen a pitcher that doesn't think everything's a strike. And you're right, if they get emotional, you're being the third inning and you're out of. So that's the one common denominator. Guys like PK have told me, they said, do not let the pitchers do it. I'm sure there's going to be some strategy. It's like, because everybody, I think, doesn't want to get to the ninth inning and not have one. But those are things that I'd like to listen to some of the player development people talk about how it worked best for them. Last spring, I didn't want to do it because we weren't going to use it. And then the guys from the league asked me, they were actually great about it. They go, can you just please do it? Okay. And I actually didn't mind it. Thought it was okay. And I thought the fans loved it. Didn't stop the game much, and when everybody waited for the scoreboard. And I think it'll be okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you guys. Oh.
Yeah, I almost believe that.
Where do you kind of see the position a lot of times still before spring training? Where do you see it?
Right, we got Krim coming in to battle for that job, and I feel like the boys are going to bring in other competition for that spot. So, just like a lot of spots in the diamond and in the pitching, we're going to have a lot of competition.
Check to follow up on that. Do you think something you will explore during the offseason?
I think so. I think we can't put a roof on anything we're trying to do right now. I think that's absolutely a possibility.
I think coming into spring training, there's, like you said, going to be a lot of competition for almost every spot on the field. How do you approach that, especially as a new manager working with players and trying to get the best out of guys so that they can be ready to play when the season starts?
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing to have competition. I think that's something that we're going to embrace, and the players will love the option to the ability to come into spring training and fight for a job. As a coaching staff, I think that's easy to facilitate. It's not difficult. The players kind of take care of that themselves.
Are there specific positions that you can identify? We just talked about first base that are going to be particularly competitive that you see, being kind of up in the air, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think other than probably shortstop and catcher, and I think there's going to be competitions all over the diamond. Center field, Doyle's out there, pretty locked down, but other than that, there's going to be competition.
On the flip side of things, do you think there might not be enough competition in the starting rotation? How do you address what you see in the starting five?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be competition there too. I don't see a reason why there wouldn't be. I mean, Freeland's going to lead the group, no doubt about it. But behind that, we're going to have a bunch of competition. Feltner's going to be involved. Dolander's going to be involved. Tanner Gordon's going to be involved. McCade Brown. And then I'm sure we're going to make additions in that area in the offseason.
I know Feltner was a big question mark last year just with the injuries, and there was big expectations for him coming into the year. Have you had conversations with him? How is he recovering? How does he feel going into next year?
Yeah, I talk to Felt often. He's recovering well. He's doing all that he can to get his body right for next year, and it's feeling good for him.
Follow up on that. I think you mentioned last summer, one of the things you guys wanted once he gets healthy is to get him stronger. Physically, stronger.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys have had discussions about?
I think that that's an easy one, Patrick, because he wants to get stronger, and he's in the process of doing that right now. I mean, he knows that that's something that he needs to do, and that's going to keep him healthy. So yes, I mean, it's a constant conversation.
Have you made strides on your staff?
We're making strides behind closed doors. Yeah, there's been a lot of time spent on staff the past 10 days or so. It's starting to shape up. Yeah.
Can you tell us anything yet?
No.
There have been so many personnel additions in the past few weeks. I'd love to know what kind of conversations you guys are having.
With Paul and JB? Yeah, great conversations. Just getting to know each other. I just met them in person last night. So I mean, we talked to JB on the phone once and Paul a bunch of times on the phone since then. But it's been great getting to know them. I mean, they're both brilliant. They both have a wealth of knowledge and backgrounds that they can pull from, and yet they want to hear what you have to say. And it's clearly a collaborative effort. So it seems like it's gonna be a fun group to work with.
Get in some experience players.
Yeah.
If you are building something to kind of have some leadership in the day.
Yeah, I think it's extremely important to surround young guys with strong veterans, maybe veterans in their prime. But it's very important to do that.
Is that something you discuss a lot with
I think we're all in agreement on that. Yeah.
Paul's been out of the game for about a decade now, despite his previous past experience within the game.
Right.
Do you think being out of the game and going to a different professional sports league brings this fresh perspective coming back, and what can he bring from that?
Absolutely. I think it's a fresh perspective. I mean, he's super excited to be back in it. He's been in it at one time, which offers a vast knowledge. But getting away from the game and seeing it from maybe a football angle, maybe he's bringing something. Well, he's definitely bringing something other people don't have. So he's going to be invested completely in what he's doing. But I think that experience will help him.
Do you think having, like, for you guys specifically, the Rockies, your home field is different, your environment is different. Is there something about going with a different type of,
like somebody with a different background now that's
Sure.
worth trying, I guess, for lack of a
Yeah,
better
that's
phrase, like thinking outside the box and changing the way you guys think.
sure. I think in that position, it's important to be a creative thinker, and that is definitely what Paul is. I guess no matter what your background is in sports, thinking creatively on how to attack something and how to conquer course field is the most important thing.
What are you guys specifically thinking about this year to tackle course field in a different way?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that question brings up. Offensive identity, what we want to do. We want to put the ball in play a ton and use our outfield, run the bases, put pressure, constant pressure on the opposing pitcher who never wants to be in course field to begin with. But we can't let our foot off the gas, and that's a big thing that we're focusing on. We need to fill up the strike zone on the pitching side, and we need to attack the zone early. Strike one is huge. Those are just a couple things that you can't get behind in course field specifically because free base runners historically not very good in that yard.
Hey, Schaeffer, you talked to us a lot last season about the idea of the kind of offense that you'd like to build.
Mm-hmm.
Touched on it a moment. The two new hires in the front office, Josh and Paul, do you think you're kind of all on the same page in terms of how you want to build an offense going forward?
Yes, that was one of the first clear things talking to Paul on the phone. That was very, very clear that we share that vision of putting the ball in play. We both agree, and JB agrees that extremely high strikeout rates, unless you're doing extreme damage along with that, it really doesn't play, of course, because it's going to be exacerbated on the road with the bigger shapes coming at you. But yeah, we're all pretty lockstep in that.
When you talk about those things, also, you're looking for speed, looking for contact, using that outfield. Do you maybe look at a different type of player rather than I've seen a lot of really big guys with long swings,
Mm-hmm.
find guys that maybe fit a different physical.
I think any physical profile would play. It doesn't have to be one specific one. I think it's the skills you bring to the table. But the skills that you're talking about is absolutely what I believe in. Exactly what I just told Patrick in terms of guys that put the ball in play. Not only just put the ball in play, but put it in play hard. You strike a fine balance there. And then run the base as well.
One of the things that Josh talked about last week where we met with him was maxing out the players that you got on the roster.
100%.
Yeah. So how does that go into some of the plans that you've mentioned for changing spring training, really that off-season regimen to get there?
Yeah, I mean, it's constant coaching. I mean, the idea is that the development doesn't stop when you get to the big leagues. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of that. And the staff that we're assembling right now is going to be integral in putting that into play. But it's easy to get player buy-in in terms of getting better because they all want to get better. It just we need to be more organized with it. And deliberate with our after action reports in terms of holding these guys accountable. It all goes into that, but that's fun. That's fun. And when you get a good group of guys in a staff that wants to do that, it can be exhilarating.
Josh Burns has a lot of experience with the Dodgers of players getting better at the major league level.
Absolutely.
In LA. Have you had any conversations with him about that and specific plans going forward?
Have not, but I look forward to it because I'm going to be talking to him a lot. I just have known him for one night. Yeah. I feel like the bullpen is one of our biggest strengths. I think it's strong. You got Jimmy Herget, who had a great year. Seth Halverson coming back. Victor Vodnik. We bring in Bernardino, left-hander, which is a huge pickup for us. We struggled with the left-hander in the pen last year. I know I'm missing guys, but our bullpen is very strong. Jaden Hill.
Any updates on Seth Halverson since some time?
I just talked to him. I talked to him last week. He says he's feeling great. So that's all I got. I talked to Chris last week as well, and He's progressing with his exercises and still on the road to recovery.
With that, with the season plan, do you plan with him, or do you kind of have to plan knowing that it may not be there at the beginning?
I think you got to plan a couple different ways for that, for sure.
Hey, Schaeffer, because you were an interim manager last year, so this is your first shot to kind of get your game plan revision, if you will, from the off season to the spring training to begin the season. How excited are you about that opportunity to really build a team on the field? I mean, with
Yeah. I mean, I'm through the roof about it. I mean, this is something that you look forward to for a long time. I mean, the process that we're in right now, building a staff, that is something that I've been wanting to do for a very, very long time. Getting a bunch of guys on the same page, pulling the same way, looking to develop of the same mindset, these players. I think it's huge. And then that carries over to the players. We try to create a new culture in spring training of what the Rockies look like moving forward. It's a fresh start, with Paul coming in, with JB coming in. It just feels so fresh and new and exciting. It feels like that we just have a solid, good road ahead of us.
What's been the player feedback so far from the guys that you've spoken to that you'll be back full time now?
Players, about me?
Yeah.
Players were excited, I think, in general. I have good relationships with a lot of them, most of them. And it was just good to talk to them on the phone after that happened.
Schaeffer, to piggyback on that, you guys have made some moves in the last few weeks, which were not huge, but fairly dynamic. Tully is no longer here.
Yeah.
Marmol's no longer here. Romo's not. You guys have made some fairly decisive decisions. Do you like that the organization is just making some hard, fast decisions early on?
Yeah, I do. I like the establishment of a direction that we're going. I think that initially did that. But yeah, I mean, Paul's got a different process than what we were previously used to. And it's a good process. And it's something that we can all get behind.
Last year, there was a lot of injuries. What do things he needs to do to take that next step? Like, these guys expected to come start this game.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, you always trust Tovey. I mean, Tovey is a fantastic baseball player. The one thing, and I know he would tell you this as well, that he needs to do on a consistent basis better is control the strike zone. When he does that, he's a dang good player. And he's always solid on the defensive side of the ball. So he'll take a step this year for sure. I'm sorry, I'd start that again, Tommy.
How much do you feel he's established himself in the leadership?
I think every year a little more and a little more. Tovey's not the type of guy that's going to rah you to death and to blow a teammate up or something like that. He's a guy that leads by example, and you need those guys. He's like Chuck was. I mean, Chuck was always a lead by example guy. Tovey at his youth and how young he is to be able to lead like that is special. So I think, every year that goes by, he will get better and better at the leadership position.
Chef, what would you like going forward? The splits were extreme.
Mhm.
Coors in the row.
Right.
Great moments, but he also got beat up. What would you like to see him, mindset-wise, whatever-wise, over the off-season and spring training to take his next step?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would like to see Chase, and I know he's doing this, is to learn from last year. Just a good self-evaluation about why those splits were big, why it didn't go his way as much as it did. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing him work with our new pitching department. I think it's going to be huge for him to get some new eyes on him, to get some good collaboration in that area with him. There's just some things that he needs to evaluate, and he's going to be fine. I mean, Chase Dolander's stuff is nasty. He's going to be a really, really good pitcher in this league. He knows it. It's just a matter of adjusting.
Who's closest? Who bark on February? Who's closest to making the jump to the big leagues? The guys that are either double A or triple
I mean, I think that's something that we're going to have to evaluate further coming down the road here. I mean, we've been focused on staff a lot right now, but those young guys, I mean, that's something that we got to talk about and look further into at the moment.
I know there's pretty good understanding that this is a rebuild. It could take some time. There's a good possibility that this takes time to get to a place where this team's going back to the playoffs. From your perspective, in 2026, how do you evaluate success?
Mm-hmm.
If it ends up not being the playoffs, what's something that you look at where you say this is a successful step forward?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the process every day. I look at the daily process. Are we getting better every single day? And that's something that is legitimate that we can do in every area. I mean, there's so many areas that we can get better. Obviously, with the season that we had last year, there's a ton of areas that we can get better at. It's just a matter of being able to track them and stick to them, set the standard, and how closely are we following the standard? How much are we living up to that standard on a daily basis as a staff, as a group of players, and as a team? So, I mean, that's going to be, it's a daily process. I mean, what Paul and JB and myself are extremely process oriented. There's no putting a number on anything or stuff like that.
Speaking of last year, what can you take from the end of last season? Just becoming interim manager now, full-time manager. What can you take from that?
What did I learn from last year?
Yeah. What can you take into this year? Change or the same? Or what did you know about yourself?
Right. I think the amount of lessons were innumerable of what I've learned last year. Just the intricacies of a big league clubhouse. I've managed for 10 years beforehand, but the big league clubhouse is a little different in what you have to deal with. I learned that I would love to have more conversations on a daily basis with players. I think that that's a big strength of mine, and I need to utilize it more often, develop leaders behind closed doors. And then just things on the field that you learn from and actions that happen on the field. And I'm always trying to learn. I mean, if things go wrong, I want to learn from them immediately. If things go right, I still want to look at it and learn from it. So a lot of stuff.
Hunter Gibbon had a breakout season, of course. Other than doing it again for a second year in a row, what more would you like to see out of him?
I'd like for Goody to take a step forward in his leadership qualities. I mean, that's a clear-cut one, and that's something that him and I communicate about on a regular basis. Other than that, I'm sure Goody could tell you he could get better in a whole slew of things. But he had a really, really, really good season that I'm proud of from him last year. But, at this point, everybody is looking towards him as a leader just because of what he's done on the field. And now, he just needs to take that next step with holding some guys accountable. Yeah, that's something we're going to talk about big time because I personally think that that's a yes, that he can. In the vein of Cal Raleigh is what you're saying. Yeah. And we pushed him last year at the end. We tried to get him through that knee injury he had a little bit going on there. I think there was something else, like hamstring was barking. So we wanted to keep him healthy, but I do believe that he's got the makeup and the physical toughness and ability and durability to be able to do that. So we'll see where that goes, but I think that's maybe the initial plan.
Last year, end of the year, what do you carry into the offseason that kind of have a better season?
You got to ask me that again because I couldn't hear you. Sorry, Tommy. Yeah.
What does he need to do to have a better season?
Right. I think that Doyle, his second half was much better last year, so he's got some runway to start the season off and carry it in the off season and begin it just like he did last year. In terms of the adjustments he made in his swing, BD can always get better in everything. I mean, in his base running and his base stealing, and he'll tell you that. I mean, there's things that he can push the envelope on moving forward, but his defense is always solid. It's just a matter of offensive consistency with BD, and I think with each passing moment that becomes more of a reality.
Share with us a little bit. I know it's early, but your relationship with go out and interview a bunch of other managerial candidates. Thought once we talked to you, thought you were the fifth. But can you talk to us a little bit about the relationship you guys are starting to build?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's just, for me, it's just like any other relationship. I mean, you got to get to know, just like I get to know you, Patrick, and Tommy, and all you guys. I mean, you learn who the person is, and then we have a common goal that we're trying to work towards. So, I mean, it's just strike the balance between talking and listening, and legitimately listening. And Paul does that very, very well. And then you add JB to the group, and it's a it's a good group to get to know, and I really look forward to getting to know them intimately.
Thanks, Schaeffer.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
I think it's been exciting, like talking to all the players, talking to the staff, getting our staff organized and put in place has been a big part of the offseason. And then also organizing player plans and what these guys are going to be doing in the offseason to get us ready for spring training and get ready for the season.
How was your trip to PR, and why was that so important for you? What came out of it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's the first time I've ever been there. So it was an experience for me to see with so many of my teammates, where they live and how they grew up and how important baseball is to that country. And then we drove all over the place and got to see, different cities and different places. Got to visit with Fernando and Laureano, Wandy, Randy Vasquez, and saw Camposano playing for Licey. And then got to see our DSL complex, which is absolutely amazing. Like it made me very proud to be a Padre, visiting that complex and seeing how they take care of the young men that are in our organization at that level.
What came out of the meeting?
From my perspective, I realized he's really, really good at baseball. We hit with him one of the days, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, just what he can do in a simple, hitting off the tee. You can tell he's special at that too, It's not just an ordinary player. He's a special player, a special person. He had his chef cook for us. We ate in his house. It was a blast. He took care of us like we were, just friends coming over for a dinner. And then we talked some baseball, talked about, how we thought the team could get better, how he personally could get better. I thought it was a great conversation and set us off right for the off season and to be ready for the season. Yeah, I think that's up to them. I mean, I think my expectation at this point is both those guys are going to be on that team. I know that they're excited to play for their country and that they're big pieces to that team too of their success. So looking forward to watching those guys playing those types of games, those playoff atmosphere games that will only get them ready for us when we have that opportunity. Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to that. Like, those guys are not going to be with us for a little while, and that chemistry that you try to build throughout spring training, isn't probably as good, but it also opens up opportunities for other players to lead. The Jackson Merrills, Gavin Sheets, Jake Cronenworth, those guys can kind of take the reins in spring training and get that train rolling. So when those guys come back, they're like, holy crap, everything's, in a good spot. We just got to join in and do our thing. And I think that's if we can accomplish that, that's when we know we nailed spring training.
There's been a lot of talk about leaders might convert to starters. Do you have any progress on that? Whether there's anything specific?
I didn't know if you were talking about me or talking about players on our team. I think it's still, I wish I could have done that. We got a lot of good pitchers in our bullpen that we, can pitch in numerous innings and a lot of different parts of the game. As far as starting, I think we're still having those conversations, but leaning towards those guys staying in their current roles and just being valuable assets that we deploy throughout different parts of the game. Yeah. To me, that's the biggest factor, because you take someone that's the best at what they do and you put them in a completely different role. You don't know if they're still going to be the best or they're going to be a shell of themselves or somewhere in between.
And it's a risky proposition, one, health-wise and just performance-wise. So I think using those guys strategically in the bullpen is probably best for us. It's best for them also. I think that's what they want to do, and that's a big piece of this too, is what the player knows what he really wants to do and what he's going to be best at. I could tell you as a player, like, I wanted to start, but I knew I was going to struggle at it. I was much better suited for the bullpen. That was a good home for me. I'm not saying those two guys are comparable to me, but when you have that mindset, it's much easier to have success in a role that you feel very comfortable with. And we've tried Adrian in a starting role before. He's had different variedness of success. We put him in the bullpen, and he's been dominant. And I think like keeping him in a dominant place is going to be important for the Padres. Yeah. Yeah, it's a need. I think like depth-wise, we're definitely, not where we want to be in that spot. And so, having more pitchers that are capable of starting is definitely important for us. But we also value the guys that we currently have. We've got 5 guys that we feel can be very good and have been very good in the major leagues. So, I'm not going to discredit those guys at all and say we need somebody that's better than them. They could very well be, our starting 5 and could pitch a lot. And honestly, even whoever we do, if we're able to sign somebody or trade for somebody, those guys are going to have to pitch meaningful innings anyway. And they're very valuable for us. And we've had those conversations in the offseason, and those guys are ready to compete in spring training and put their best foot forward. Say that again. Yeah, I think same conversation as Mason and Adrian. I think, pitching him out of the bullpen is probably the best for him. He can be a weapon. He's going to take another step forward as a second-year major leaguer, and he knows kind of the lay of the land. He knows the workload that's required. He knows what he's got to do to take care of his body. So I think like just having him settle into one of those leverage roles is going to be perfect for him.
Are a lot of the conversations about Miller, Morrow, and Morgan, the idea of them stretching out, is a lot of that maybe also centered around kind of what happens before you get to spring training from an off-season standpoint?
Yeah, exactly. Like those guys are all throwing already. Some of them are throwing off the mound. And so for those two guys to be prepared for that, there's a whole different, not a whole different, but a whole little bit more of training that they've got to be able to do, and that's required. And it's just a little bit different process of like building your arm strength up and being ready to hit spring training and pitch more than just one inning, but pitch a couple innings. And the other part of that too is those guys pitched a ton of innings for us last year. So we got to be careful of like, pushing them a little too hard at the beginning of spring training, but getting them ready so that they're peaking when spring training ends.
If I could just ask generally, like you've been around Jackson Merrill pretty much as he's come up, you've seen him grow. His first season was fantastic, his second season was stop start, still very solid. What are you expecting out of him in year 3?
Yeah, that guy's a stud. I'm expecting him to be the stud that he is. A great rookie year. Last year was kind of hit or miss with the injuries and the concussion. I think like just coming back from those injuries was tough on him. But I think at the end of the season, we saw who Jackson was and how he can bounce back from adversity. And we're expecting great things from him this year. He's going to be a stud in our lineup and somebody that we rely on and count on, not just from on-field performance, but just his attitude, mentality, leadership in the clubhouse.
When did you realize he had those traits? You were around him.
Yeah, I think, you know what, honestly, like one of the things that opened my eyes to him is when I went on a rehab assignment to Lake Elsinore, and they were doing pitchers fielding practice, and he's playing shortstop, and he was running the show as a 18-year-old, and you could immediately tell that he was the leader of that squad. And they were a very good team that year. I believe they got to the playoffs. I forget if they won or not, but I think they did. They won the California League that year, and he was one of the biggest parts of that. His leadership, playing the shortstop position, you could tell he had control of what was going on. He was able to get those pitchers to do what he needed when they were, fielding ground balls and doing a 1-6-3. If it didn't hit him in the chest, he was talking about it, and that's what he brings to the table. And maybe as a young player, you're a little bit worried about ruffling feathers with some of the veteran players. And I think getting into year 3, all that stuff is kind of gone, and he can be himself. I expect him to be around the team a lot. Him and Randy Vasquez have a really tight, close relationship. In fact, when I was in the DR, Randy said Darvish is texting him every day. And by the time Darvish wakes up in California, Randy said, I've already got my workout done. So he keeps telling me that I'm not doing anything. So they have a fun banter back and forth. But you was a very instrumental in Randy's season last year of it getting better as the season went on with game planning and knowing how to take care of his body. He's going to be a huge asset for us, not just with Randy, but with the entire team and specifically the pitching staff. He probably can, although my mechanics aren't really like ones you want to copy, so he'll probably be like, we're not doing that.
Do you expect is it your understanding he intends to try to pitch again after this event?
Yeah, I think so. I would not put anything past Yu Darvish. That guy has accomplished so many things in our game. Like you said, he can imitate every pitcher. He can throw left-handed bullpens. He can throw left-handed curveballs. That guy is an amazing man, and he's been an amazing baseball player for a long time. And so, the work that he puts in, how articulate he is and how detailed he is with what he does on a daily basis, like he's going to come back from this injury. Whether he and his family decide he wants to pitch anymore, that'll be up to him, but I know he could do it. Yeah, he could do anything. Yeah, Joe Musgrove with the left-handed spirals too. He was doing that in Chicago last year. It was impressive. Yeah, those guys are way more athletic than I ever was. Like, I can do things one-sided kind of good. Those guys can do it both sides really good. Good shape. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Since I didn't really talk to you about it, what do you think of the additions of Fraley,
Yeah.
Cedric Mullins, and how does that, realizing it's still early December, maybe more moves are coming, but how does that kind of reshape your outfield?
Excited about both those guys. Jake Fraley having history with the organization, a lot of people he knows and that know him, to welcome him back. I mean, you look at Jake, when he's been able to stay healthy, he's put together some productive seasons and really gives you good at bats. Cedric Mullins, we've seen a lot of from his Oriole days. It was not a guy that we like to see come up to the plate, the speed power combination and the ability to play center field. I think Eric addressed it early on heading into the offseason that we needed to find some production, more offensive production out of our outfield. We need to be defensively better out of our outfield. And those two guys are going to help us do that.
Eric is also kind of talking about creating competition, by batting all these outfielders.
Yep.
That could kind of help some of the returning guys as well, like Josh Lowe or Johnny DeLuca.
Yeah, look, I think that some years you go into spring training and your roster is pretty much set, barring injuries. That's just the reality of it. And then there's some years where there's some uncertainty and unknown, and presents an opportunity for guys to go out and have good springs. And those two guys you mentioned, they're very motivated to come into spring training. Josh Lowe has worked his butt off this to date of trying to get his body in shape, his athleticism back. And, we know the 2023 version of Josh Lowe is an extremely talented player that would help any baseball roster. And that's what we're looking forward to. Josh? Yeah, I will not talk. I texted him with him when I drive over here. I-4 is a treat to drive on, as you guys all know. I got rerouted like 4 times on the way here, but I texted him, said, I got to get back for something, but we're an hour and 45 minutes away. We'll definitely see him. And he pops over to Tampa quite a bit. You want a real answer? Or you want me to be sarcastic? No, hope to see. You know what? I'm looking forward to tonight. We're going to have our affiliate dinner, and I think it's going to be a little bit unique because we have a new ownership group here that I'm excited to sit down and get to talk with. I've met them all, but just more interaction. I think that's going to be exciting, and so appreciative of all of our affiliates that we get to come in and host and mingle with and spend a couple hours with. So I'm excited about that.
kind of look as he goes into spring training?
Well, we're obviously very excited about him. We put him on the roster. He battled some injuries in spring training. It was unfortunate for all that was talked about him coming into spring last year. You know, he had the arm injury that he just couldn't perform, but there's a lot to be excited about. You talk to our player development people, certainly Jeff Smith, our catching coordinator, raised about Dom Keegan, the player and the person. I hear the comps, and you know, when you hear the name Jason Varitek floated around comparing to a young player, that's quite an honor. I got to play with Jason, and the leader he was, forget the player, we all know how great of a player he was, but the leader and the way he carried himself in the clubhouse, and when people talk like that's how Dom is and how he cares so much as pitching staff about a pitching staff, that excites you for coming into spring training, getting him to play and perform as long as he's healthy.
Last couple of years, each win said he's considered making Griffin Jack a starter. What about his mix makes that possibility?
Oh, I think the mix is pretty simple, is that he's got 4 or 5 quality pitches. I mean, so you can dream a little bit on how does that play out over 6 innings as opposed to 1 inning. I know we've had some conversation, but we really like Jack's in our bullpen. I mean, it is dominant electric stuff. I think you look at his number and some of the underlying stuff, he might have been one of the unluckier pitchers. And you can't have that happen multiple years, because then it just turns into you're not very good. I understand that. But you look at how the swing and miss he creates, the strike throwing, we felt like we had a pretty good bullpen, and it just got better when we acquired him.
Adam asked you about competition in the outfield, maybe a shortstop too. I don't know. Eric said probably looking to acquire someone else, depending on how it shakes out with Carson's situation.
Yeah, between Carson and certainly Walsey, we have Raynel Delgado that we signed that will come in and get some reps. And you never know how the rest of the offseason is. I want to see Taylor Walls healthy. I think watching him every day, it's game changing what he does defensively for us. And with Carson, really happy about the experiences that he gained in the last 6 weeks of the year. Did some good things, and I know he's going to come in very motivated to come in and continue to do those things. So to your point, the competition, there feels like there's going to be a little bit more competition than there has maybe in the past springs. Yeah. You said, what do I think of Junior Caminero? He was incredible. I mean, he exceeded every expectation you could ever ask of a 22-year-old player. And, I have seen him this offseason. His work ethic is off the charts. His care to be a good teammate off the charts, and he can really hit. And I think what we don't talk about enough is coming out of spring training, there was legitimate concern about his defense. From me, I was not confident, and I give him so much credit for, after about a month in, really working on his defense with Brady Williams and Rodney Linares and Taylor Walls and that group helping him along. He became a very good defensive player, to where when the game was on the line and there was a ground ball hit down to third base, we felt really good about it. I have not. I have not been over there since the season ended.
Do you have a chance to start formulating a protocol for how you're going to be able to do all these practices?
We have not yet. I'm sure we will spend a lot of conversation talking about that, though. I'm avoiding that intentionally, because I know that's going to lock me in for hours talking about the challenge system, the ABS. By all accounts, what I've heard from, Morgan in AAA or anybody that experienced in AAA, they really liked it. The players seem to like it after a little bit, but the coaching staff, they said it took a lot of the arguing out, and they seemed to get really, really good because the umpires got really good because of it.
A lot of catchers who were able to build up value during the free agent ability were concerned about what kind of system was going to be in place. And with the way that they've structured this, do you almost think that enhances value of those guys because they might be relied upon when to issue a challenge?
Yeah, I think I think that's right. I think you could make the case that, look, we don't know, but you'd like to think your elite framing catchers have a very good sense and awareness of what that borderline ball strike looks like. But I think that makes sense. I don't know if that'll actually play out that way.
In terms of the Trump, how important is it to you today where you play? And is it a distraction at all about where you may or may not play beyond the extension of that contract?
Yeah, I mean, I've done this. I think I'm going on year 12, and that question is asked every single year. Mark's done it for 30 years, and he's talked about it. So it's not a distraction. I think the guys are excited to get back in the Trop. I know I am so appreciative of the Yankees and the Steinbrenner family and Steinbrenner Field, but we're excited to get back home.
I think the biggest benefit will be, or are there benefits of getting back there? The comfort factor?
Comfort, sometimes that uncertainty of weather and heat and rain, is it coming or is it not? Like, I know a lot of other ballparks, you play in Boston, you play in Camden Yards at certain points of the year, you're always dealing with a mist, this and that. We got spoiled being in the Trop, knowing it's 72 degrees, we're playing unless the lights go out, and that only happened one time. So knowing the consistency of the schedule and that nothing generally is going to affect the start of the game or interfere with it.
Is there anything like your team is built for that?
Our pitchers are, I think. Yeah, they would definitely. They're probably the happiest to get back there. The hitters are probably going to miss playing at Steinbrenner a little bit, but the pitchers are going to benefit by those long fly ball outs. Other than that, he's having a really good offseason. There is no update. I mean, I know he's a huge part of our team, and we need him healthy. He's working to be healthy, but there's no real update other than that he feels really good. That's what I'm being told. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think try to keep it as fluid as possible. We got guys that have certainly closer stuff, closer mentality, and have closed games between Uceta, Clev, Jax, Manny Rodriguez. I don't want to leave anybody out, but there are guys that pitch with a lot of confidence at the back end of games. We were fortunate to have Pete in that role, kind of stability for so many seasons there, but now it opens up opportunities for us to maybe find different matchups early in the game to get a different one later.
With the group you have in the outfield, you've got a lot of lefties.
Yeah.
Cedric's numbers are actually better than lefties and righties
last year. Yeah. Yeah.
You think you'll have a lot of platooning, or want to see?
I mean, it all kind of shakes out how the roster looks when you're coming out of spring. Right. We've had seasons in the past where, because of injuries, we had righty sinker ballers and we had 7 righties in the lineup. That was not by design. It was by what our personnel was because of injuries. But I agree. We do have left-handed hitters between, Jake being switched and then Chandler, J-Lo, Fraley, Cedric, a lot of lefties in there. So it might present some opportunities for lefties to play. But then you have Ryan Valade and Johnny DeLuca as righties that can kind of counterbalance that. But all of that, I don't think there's a scenario we can, and Richie Palacios, I don't think there's a scenario we can have 7, 8 outfielders on the roster. So that's where the spring training, come in, compete, show well, will define kind of how our lineups are early on.
Good. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Good seeing everybody.
You didn't compare Keegan to Kevin Cash.
No, I did not. That would be rude on my part.
So Shelby sent
Nervous? First time?
Hi. Meredith? Okay.
Aaron, just how much do you guys, or how much would you like to see Cody Bellinger back in your guys' lineup?
Whew.
I mean, obviously what Cody brought to us last year in so many ways, just who he was in the room, his performance between the lines on both sides of the ball, his athleticism, his versatility. Who wouldn't want a player like that? But he's earned the right now to get to this point of his career, a free agency, as still a relatively young man. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it shakes out. But as far as the player and the person, he's a good one.
Have you been an active part of the recruiting process?
No, not so much with, I usually don't recruit as much with, with guys that we've had or whatever. They know who we are, they know what we're about. Certainly if there comes a point where, and this isn't just for Cody, this is with anyone, when it gets to a point where we're starting to get down the road or be in conversations, I'll certainly have those conversations with guys, where I see it fit.
You done any of that yet?
No.
When if Bellinger comes back, how do you get the big guys at bats? If I know you say things play their way out, there's injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, Stammen being hurt opened up some guys. But if you guys are healthy, what do you do about the big guys?
Well, we're back in the hypothetical game again. I mean, right now, like, reality is JD is a young, talented player that got real experience at the big league level last year, had a lot of success, had some struggles along the way with it, but I think we all see a really talented player there. He went down to play winter ball to get some more at bats, which I think is going to be very valuable for him. And if a situation presents itself down the road where you end up having a lot of good players for not enough spots, you figure it out, you work it out, and then competition plays a big role too, where those things kind of work themselves out. There were times in the season early on in the first half especially where a rotation kind of served us well, and all those guys really probably thrived, and in some cases it probably helped keep some guys a little bit fresher down the stretch because of that, because they kind of protected each other. There was buy-in. They were all playing regularly, and they were all contributing at a really high level. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get there if and when something like that comes up.
What reports have you gotten on Jason out of winter ball?
Say it again.
What reports have you gotten on Jason out of winter ball? Just also, do you think it's viable for him to keep being a switch hitter? I know you talked about him getting more reps.
Yeah, I mean, a small sample down there, but I think just going down there and playing in that environment and getting some at bats, continuing to play, especially since the last month of the season, even though he played a lot throughout the year and ended up with over 400 big league at bats, still down the stretch he didn't play as much, obviously, and into the playoffs. So I think it's good to go do that. As far as the switch hitting, yes. Again, I go back and I hammered you guys over the head with this all year. Like, we're talking about a very, very young player that, didn't play a ton of minor league baseball. And what suffers from that? The side you don't hit from as much. I still think it's a natural side for him. He's a natural right-handed hitter. So I don't think it's out of the question that at some point that right-handed, catches up to the left side. We'll see. But I think he has the ability to do it. Yeah, no, not a lot. I was there. We crossed paths a couple of days there when he was there. So he seems to be in a really good frame of mind, headspace, understanding. He put himself in a pretty strong position after having a strong year and going to spring training for the first time where he's getting a real look. Last year was. He was in spring training, and I think that was eye-opening for him, and getting that opportunity to be around big league guys in our environment for a handful of weeks before going down. But he handled his business at the minor league level, and now he comes in with a, probably a more realistic look at, whether it starts the season or not, we'll see, but at a more realistic look to where he's now knocking on the door of the big leagues. Yeah, look, I I mean, I'm looking forward to him being there and seeing a talented player continue to grow and mature in his career. But at the same time, you don't want to put too much stock in, how, the first few weeks of spring training are going, good, bad, indifferent. It's all part of the experience and growth, part of your career. And, but certainly we're excited about, where he is and the position he's put himself in.
What did you see from Jason in the field last year?
Yeah. Overall, real improvement. But, there's still a long ways to go in that improvement. I think back to the end of 2024, where we saw him out there, where there's some real struggles, obviously still getting used to left field, still now getting used to left field, as it's still fairly new for him. Even in spring training, the difference of him in February compared to April, compared to June, I think there was really big strides, but there's still a ways to go, and just learning the nuances of the position. His athleticism is a real calling card for him as far as his speed and arm strength and things like that. And you hope that continues to win the day and eventually gets him to that point to where, man, now he's getting really good out there. But, he's still got a lot of development to still do in that regard.
What did you make of Trent's defense this past season? Because the metrics were not.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought definitely better than that. I think the defensive metrics, I think sometimes, like in my head, I think back to a couple balls in Sacramento where the wind was kind of weird and some balls get blown a certain way, and those kill an outfielder, from whether it's defensive run save, whatever it may be. There was a month in the middle of the season or a later part where he was playing with the hamstring, so he probably didn't get to 3 or 4 balls that he normally gets to. That those things really ding you. I think overall, you still watch him play the position, you're like, oh, that's a real center fielder. And I think it's not unrealistic that he gets back to being more in line with that Gold Glove caliber guy, with better health, with just, having a good off season from a training standpoint. I think that's very much still in there for him.
Bryce had a big first full year for you. And
Yeah.
Probably was a little bit unlucky with a lot of his targets. What kind of ceiling does he have? Do you think he's still can really take another big step?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, he's already, I think, by the time we got to the end and you looked at it, like, this is a fearsome left-handed middle of the order hitter. This is who he is. And it's his first full season. So you hope there's always that continued improvement. I mean, he's the type of guy that gets after it. Obviously we saw what he did physically last off season and how we feel like that really paid off for him. I saw him the other day at Yankee Stadium. I was in there. He was down hitting. And I had already seen like some of the weight, that you probably lose over the course of the season and you get beat up by the end of the year. He looks really good, really physical right now. So look, I think he's going to be one of the really good hitters in Major League Baseball for a while. And, hopefully that means even another step next year.
What is your plan defensively with him?
Well, right now he's our first baseman. The catching stuff is still very much in play. And then we'll see how, the off season unfolds with where we are roster wise going into spring training and how much catching that means, or is it all first base? But definitely see him as our first baseman.
He did a lot of extra catching stuff last year. Do you think he'd benefit from just focusing on first base?
As far as, defensively or,
yeah.
I mean, he's working really, really hard every day at his craft. Like he's one of those guys that's always working. So I don't think he got shorted in his work at first base. Now, obviously the first half of the year when Giancarlo was down and Goldie was playing pretty much every single day. It was mostly DH reps, but he's also working at first base and doing, when he was DHing, he was able to still work a little bit on his catching craft and his first base. We'll see as we go into spring training, what makes the most sense from, getting the most out of him. But, I think it's important, and an important skill that he possesses that you don't necessarily want to just go away, because he is capable back there. And, even if that turns into being the two catcher or having that flexibility of having a third catcher on the roster, there's some real value in that too. So as I sit here right now, I don't want him to lose that or ignore that altogether, but likely first base being a focal point.
At this point, do you expect to add a right-handed hitting catcher?
Not necessarily. It's impossible to say where the winter takes you. You go into the winter meetings, sometimes, the landscape or trades or free agency, what's out there, what's available, what lines up. Sometimes you're hammering a strength, and trying to overwhelm. Sometimes you're trying to plug holes and that lines up. You just don't know what the landscape and where it's going to take you. So not necessarily. Right, in a perfect world, you'd have a left and a right, but it's not something that we feel like we have to do, because we feel like obviously in Wells and JC, we have two really good, I feel like the world doesn't know yet so much about JC, but I'm really high on him on both sides of the ball. And then obviously having Ben, we'll see how everything unfolds over the next couple months.
Sonny really caused quite a stir with what he said last week. You had him in 18. Were you surprised to hear him say it and so forcefully?
I mean, a little bit. Anytime a player comes out and says that, but that's all right. I mean, he's in Boston now. He's not supposed to like us anyway. So that being said, I've always really liked Sonny, gotten along well with him. So, if you spice up the rivalry a little, there's nothing wrong with that. But I was a little surprised at how deep he went.
Could you tell he hated it here when he was here?
I don't know about hated. I don't know if I would have characterized it like that. I know it wasn't certainly the best stop for him, but one of those probably important steps along what's been a really good career for him.
Aaron, put a finger on why McMahon strikes out so often. Is it something? Is it fixable?
I do. I think there's a lot more in there offensively than we saw from Mac, and feel like he and our hitting guys have really had some good conversations as he's starting into his hitting program now this winter. I feel like there's a real two-way player in there, and hopefully we can help him make little adjustments here that unlock all that, because he's a tremendous athlete, real power, feel like knows the strike zone pretty well. There's some things he does in his swings that get him in trouble a little bit, but it would not surprise me at all to see him, go to a different level offensively. And hopefully he does that to really line up with obviously what he is as a defender. Yeah, good. He's been at Yankee Stadium pretty much every day up until last week when he went down to Tampa now to so he'll be there the rest of the way. So rehab's going well. He's making the right kind of progress, but still in that kind of rehab phase of it all.
How's Garrett Cole?
Garrett's doing well. He's in, I think he ended up throwing about 6 to 8 bullpens before kind of the shutdown where he deloads a little bit. And then I think he's starting up his throwing program about now again to ramp back up. So it's gone well. He's doing well. And looking forward to him being back, obviously.
Is he going to be ready for the start of the season, or is it going to
No, I don't expect him for the start of the season, but we'll see when that is. Whether it's a month or two in. It's obviously not something we'll rush. We want to make sure he's in a good spot and when he enters the rotation, ready to roll. But I don't anticipate it being at the start. No.
How's John Carlo doing it? Are you optimistic that maybe you can get a full season out of him? I know it seems like something every year, but he's played the last few years. He's been pretty good.
Yeah, I hope so. I think he went into the winter in a pretty good spot, a little beat up like everyone, but, not rehabbing something, so to speak, which is good. Obviously he's been through a lot physically with his body and the different things that he's had to deal with. I think that experience has served him well as far as just knowing what to do and how to do it. And, hopefully that means him being out there, for the bulk of the season, and not having stints where he's down, but we'll see.
Aaron, when you look at your current roster, what's missing or what needs fortifying in your mind?
Again, you're always looking to get better. And that looks different every year. And we went and got Juan Soto a couple years ago to kind of really hammer a strength. And last year we were able to go plug more holes. So it just depends what, we could always use more fortification and better players in certain areas. But I don't know where the winter takes us. So, I know Cash talked about us being left-handed, and that's one thing, we're, are focused on a little bit is, trying to get some balance, whether that's from creating an everyday player or where your bench becomes more of, like when we brought in Slater, we brought in Rosario last year to kind of give us some balance and some options, within a game. We'll see how that goes. But, we're also counting on, a lot of our young, Warren taking another step, Schlittler taking another step, the Rices and Wells and these guys and JD, kind of going to another level in their development as big league players. Preston will be in the bullpen.
What did you think of Wells offensively last year?
Yeah. Thought got off to a really good start and then kind of hit a lull there in the middle of the season. And I think there was a month in there where he really struggled, to the point where, he was losing a little bit of playing time. That's when Ben started catching a little bit more. And, but I also thought he kind of righted the ship a little bit. At the end of the season was given some of his better at-bats of the season down the stretch. So, and again, like with Austin, and I've said this to you guys a lot, like I think he's really good offensively. I think he can be a really good major league hitter. Again, you get a catcher that hits 20 homers and, I think was over 700 probably with his OPS, but I think as a credit to him, like I expect more out of him. For what he brings though behind the plate, and I think how good he's become defensively, you'd kind of sign up for that level of production from your catcher. But because of what I believe he can be offensively, I'm hoping and expecting more in there.
Yeah, and as confident as you were at the makeup of the team at the end of last year,
Mm-hmm.
can it be as simple for you guys as to bring back Bellinger and you expect Cole to be Garrett Cole again, as far as big changes in the team?
Yeah. I mean, look, honestly, this end of our season this year was, frankly, as hard a one for me as because of, like you said, I felt like we were really good and healthy and peaking at the right time and got beat in a series against a team that we obviously struggled with last year with the Blue Jays. So it was hard. So you want to take stock in that. And, again, you're always trying to improve your club and improve your team, but also pause and say, hey, we're pretty good here. And we got a lot of really good players. and a lot of really good young core players that emerged on different levels last year that we need to continue to grow in their big league, kind of journey.
How's that? Coaches mentioned base running.
Yeah.
The base running that we did a couple weeks ago, bringing Dorito to kind of that, what you hope he kind of does there to
Yeah. So Theo and Ryan Hunt, in kind of an advisory role, if you will. We think that combination, where kind of overseeing obviously the infield and the base running. And I just want our base running to continue to go to another level. I felt like last year we made some real strides in the base running department, especially second half of the year. Finally, I feel like our athleticism started to, pay dividends for us and show up in games and, even help us win games with our speed and athleticism and stuff. And we just want that. We need to continue to get better at that, though. It's an area that, has obviously been talked about a lot over the last couple of years, but we need to continue to move the needle and get better and try and make those gains on the margins. And base running is one of the areas we can do that. Theo has been in our organization now for a long time. We interviewed a number of really good candidates, a lot internal that we're really excited about, like, guys with, I think, really bright futures, whether it's continuing in player development, whether it's in, becoming major league coaches. Theo's earned that opportunity, earned that right. And he's ready for this. And I feel like, knows our players well, has experience with a lot of our players, and has done really good work in player development and earned this opportunity. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about Ryan Hunt and what he's going to bring and kind of overseeing it all. So feel like, and then just hopefully we continue to, move the needle where on the bases where, we're taking advantage rightly of our athleticism and striking that right balance between risk reward, where you push the envelope.
Aaron, you mentioned struggling
You added a couple coaches to the staff that had experience with some of your younger players when they were in the minor leagues. Hurst is in that group as well.
Yeah.
So did you feel that was important to have guys that were with some of the younger hitters when they were having success in the minor leagues?
That's one piece of it, but probably, frankly, a smaller one. We're trying to get the best and brightest, so whether that's guys that have worked with some of our players or not, we're trying to get the most impactful people in obviously important, prominent positions. So we feel like Jake is, noticeably done an excellent job in player development over the last several years. He has been in and around us in spring training on the big league side and helping out. And, he, like Theo, he's kind of earned the opportunity, and excited for him to step in and become, an important part of our hitting group, which obviously with J-Ro and Casey back, losing six, that I feel like that hitting group has done a really good job for us over the last couple of years in creating the right kind of, culture in our hitting room.
You said losing six, so are you guys no longer exploring other roles for Russell?
We'll see. We'll see what potentially comes up or not. Again, as the offseason continues to fold, nothing right now, but we'll see.
Aaron, you mentioned struggling against the Blue Jays all year.
Yeah.
How do you close that gap against them?
Well, playing better against them is the real simple answer. At the end of the day, we ended up knotted with them, but in the head-to-head, they kicked our butt, and especially in those summer months, in that stretch where we were scuffling a little bit, they beat us up, including a 4-game sweep up there, and that obviously ended up really hurting us. We got them 2 out of 3 at home late in the year, and then when we were in a better place, and obviously, they were on fire against us in the playoffs. So, look, it comes down to, against other good teams, execution, performance, game plan, all that. Because the margin's thin against other great teams.
Getting beat up by them like that, do you think that can compound in the psyche over the course of the year?
No. I mean, as far as this year, we played them in September and beat them 2 out of 3 in meaningful time of the year where we're closing in on and trying to, win the division. But to their credit, they beat our butts in the postseason. So, that's sports sometimes. Obviously, them being in our division is, and obviously feel like they're going to be really good again going into next year, as is the rest of the division. I feel like, you got to play well, especially in our division, if you're going to have a chance to win the division and do something great.
Do you think that gap is smaller than a lot of people think?
Yeah.
What tells you that?
Well, we ended with the identical records last year. I don't want to discount that they kicked our ass last year. Like, I don't take it out of context. Like, so, I would say the gap is probably, we have the exact same record and, but they obviously, were a great team last year and an eyelash away from winning a world championship. So, they certainly proved to be the better team this year and hopefully, we can close that gap and pass them and others this year.
Thanks, everybody.
Boone thinks they're better than the Blue Jays.
obviously we were teammates for a month, and but the impact he made on me and my career was tremendous. Just helping me learn how to catch, how to navigate a pitching staff, and so for Kurt, be yourself. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to ask, I don't know, or to use the resources around you. I think that's one of the things that I learned real early was it's okay if I don't know, but I'll ask the smart people around me to hopefully have the answer. And so for Kurt, just be yourself.
What is it about today's game, the player population, style of game, all kinds of factors that would make it palatable for teams to hire someone like yourself? Your previous managerial experience, you just finished playing, and oh, by the way, it worked.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing, like, I don't know if it's going to become a trend.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the people right around my age or that era of player, we played through a very unique time where we broke into the big leagues, came up through the minor leagues with absolutely zero information. And then during our big league career, we had every piece of information thrown at us, and we were expected to go use that on the field. And so I think we were raised in an old school world, but then we played through the transition. So now I feel like we have a very good understanding of how to apply information while not losing sight of maybe the gut feel. And so I think it's a really unique time period from that 08 to 2020 that we learned all of that.
How much have you talked with MLB over the last 6 weeks or so? Do you tell them to reach out? Is there usually, do you think there'll be apprehension from a new manager wanting to lean on that mentor?
No, I think we talked a lot through the interview process, obviously, and we talked a lot the first week or so, and then we kind of had a breakup call, kind of saying goodbye to a high school sweetheart, so to speak. But I miss him. I miss talking to him. It's somebody you talk to every single day for the last 2 years, pretty much, and then all of a sudden it just stops. But we've talked quite a bit. He's ready to go. He doesn't need any mentoring and I'm not that type of person anyway. So he knows I'm available. I know he's available, and we've kept in good contact.
What do you think that experience is going to do for you next year, being thrown into such an unusual debut?
I think, making his debut in the postseason, obviously it's unique. I think knowing that he can handle playing in the postseason, he's going to be able to handle playing in the regular season. And I think for Chase, it was great to get his feet wet. It was great for him to, all right, now I know what it smells like on the highest stage. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And so for him, having a full winter of wanting that and knowing what it looks like, knowing what it feels like, I think that could be a huge boost for him going into this year.
Talking to a lot of the other managers so far today, it sounds like everybody's still in the formative stages in terms of thinking about protocols related to the new ball and strike system. So I'm interested in your perspective of what thoughts you've had about it so far, and especially in terms of you being a catcher and thinking of it, what it would be like if you were back there in that system.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. We haven't really dove in yet, so probably similar to everybody else. I don't know how much of it's going to change, right? I mean, we got to play with it during spring training last year. A lot of the players have used it in AAA. So I know for us, a lot of our guys have experience using it because they've been in AAA recently. So we're going to play with it. We're going to see how it goes. I don't know if anybody's got it figured out. I don't know if there is a way to figure it out. But we're going to keep playing with it and try different things.
There was a lot of concern when this was all being discussed and before they settled on what the system would be about how this could impact the value of a catcher, the framing ability. And the way this has turned out, does this almost enhance their value in terms of they may end up being the trigger guy in a lot of big decisions on when to challenge?
Yeah, I think the better receivers are going to know the zone, right? And I think we'll have to see how it plays out before we can really determine, how do we grade pitch framing now? If you can just change the call. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but I still think the art of catching is there, the calling of the game, the cerebral side of catching isn't going anywhere. So I'll be interested to see how it goes.
How badly do you guys think you need another arm in the bullpen? A little more depth.
Yeah, we need a lot. We need depth in the bullpen. So I think like we talked about upstairs. We have 4, maybe 5 guys in our bullpen, and we need 8. So it's an area we're addressing for sure.
What about Stefan? Where does he figure in this?
Yeah.
I know he's not the 40 man.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Trevor, obviously everybody's rehab is unique, and Trevor's surgery was very unique. So be interested to see where Trevor is when we get to spring training. I'm excited to watch him pitch. I've never seen him pitch, right? He's kind of been injured the whole time I've been here. So excited to see him with a full off season, a normal off season, getting back ready. And obviously if Trevor Stephan can pitch the way Trevor Stephan pitched before surgery, it'll be a very welcome back.
Because of the Fry, this last year was very trying year for rehab. Things. What are your expectations for him next year? His thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm just excited that David's going to be healthy. Obviously avoided a big scare there at the end of the year. That was a scary moment, but so thankful he's okay. But David healthy, him being able to catch and play the field a little bit too, probably. It just adds a completely different dynamic to our team, and I think it's going to alleviate a lot of the pressure he was putting on himself to only produce at the plate for really over a year. I mean, you think about the second half of 24, he could only really DH as well. So David having a full winter, healthy, completed the rehab, it's going to be really exciting to be able to use him the way his skill set is intended to.
To fall back on your prospects and just stay with them for another year, and I guess rest the offense on them. What are the percentages of all those guys improving? I mean, it usually doesn't work like that, right? Players don't go in a straight line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to take it day by day, like we do. And I know you're sick of hearing me say that, but we're working hard. We're working close with these guys. We had great exit meetings with them. What did we learn? What did you learn? We're doing follow-ups. But this is an opportunity for everybody to step up. This is an opportunity for us to get better. We're working as coaches to figure out ways that we can help them get better. And for me, it's, I love our players. I love the hitters that we have. We had a really good offense the last month of the season, and we need to build on that, and we need to hit the ground running.
David, I know you're limited in what you can actually say about this, but just for you, what has it been like for you, the experience of having to follow the cases with Clase and Ortiz, and first happening during the season, but even now as you're reflecting on it and figuring out what the team's going to be in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think I continue to just focus on who we have here, and again, as the investigation goes on, we'll learn more, but we don't know a whole lot about it. And but all I know is that our guys rallied and finished strong, and we're going to continue to push with the group that we have.
And then at the water, I knew he was a great prospect because I love reading prospect analysis. I didn't know a whole lot about his story, but he was featured very prominently in Jane Levy's recent book. And he's got a really interesting background. How excited are you just for, as he becomes an established big leaguer, for people to know about his background and how off the radar he came into being a great prospect and that kind of thing?
I love baseball stories, and Chase is another good one. And I don't know him real well. I haven't been around him a ton, so I'm really excited to get to know him better. And like I said, that's the beauty of our game. There's no creative player. There's no, you can't build one in the lab. They come all different shapes and sizes and heights and abilities. And I have a feeling Chase is going to be a lot of fun to follow and watch, and I'm really looking forward to it.
What were the conversations like with Carl when he told you guys, "Hey, I'm ready to come back"?
I was excited. It's like I told Carl, there's no one I'd rather watch baseball with than Carl Willis. I love sitting next to him. I love his humor, the teammate, the human being that he is. Carl Willis is the best pitching coach in baseball, and I'm so fortunate that I get to work with him every day. And so when he shared that he was wanting to come back, heck yeah, let's go, Carl. This is awesome.
Last season was so unique. 15 and a half games back in July, 11 games back in September. Do you feel like the expectations of that now, does that carry over into 2026? Do you have to, try to, you can't match that, but do you feel like the pressure of that?
I'd prefer to not have a 15 and a half game hole this year. I think the expectations or pressure it's all external, right? We expect to go out and win every night. We're trying to win as many games we can so that we can have a chance to win a World Series. And I think when that's our expectation, then whatever expectations or pressure that is coming in from the outside, it's not as much as the pressure that we put on ourselves. And we can only accomplish one game at a time. So we're going to continue to keep that the focus. And for me, I don't want to win the division. I want to win the World Series. If we win the division on the way to doing that, awesome. But for me, we want that ultimate prize, and we're working every day for that.
What can you do to win a third consecutive manager?
I may have to win 120 games or something. I don't know, but it's pretty cool. I'm very honored and really just proud of our guys.
With the middle of the diamond, what do you want to see from Arias? And or will you keep Arias at short, and will you keep Rocchio at second base, or is that how the season's going to?
Yeah,
spring training.
I would imagine it would open similar to that. I think we're going to see Brian play a lot of shortstop during spring training as well, and Gabby probably play a little bit elsewhere just to be ready for it. But with the way those two played up the middle and the way they finished the season strong, it'd be hard to not pencil those two guys in there playing shortstop and second base. But we also have a number of players that are going to be competing for spots. We're going to have a lot of competition in camp, both position player wise and pitching. It's going to be really fun.
What did you see out of Manzardo that kind of made you tell him, okay, you got to get stronger, you got to stay on the field more? I mean, at least that's what the message it sounded like.
Yeah, I think anytime you're learning, right? He just completed his first full season in the big leagues. Until you've done that, you really don't know what that feels like, because a full season in the big leagues is a completely different beast than any year in your life. And so for Kyle, it's understanding, all right, you're getting to be 24. You got to start really focusing on your body, getting stronger, because then you don't get as tired. You don't break down as much when you're stronger. And so Kyle's learned. He's having a great winter, like we talked about. And I think for Kyle, if he can put on a little more strength, and obviously our medical staff and strength and conditioning are playing a big part in this as well, but it's going to help Kyle sustain his success a lot longer and a lot more consistently throughout the year. Just continued improvement. I think we saw it at times. Kyle worked really hard on his throwing, just getting that more consistent. But for me, it's more of keeping your body healthy, and a lot of that comes with learning, like we talked about. So, if Kyle, I talked to Kyle a couple days ago, and I said we got to prepare your body to be ready to play first base as many days a week as possible, because if Kyle can play first base, it makes our team a lot better.
Steve, what do you consider the most important part of the job as a big league manager, and would your answer be the same before you got the role as it is?
Probably similar. Consistency. You have to be the same person every single day, whether things are going well, things are going poorly. You can't have bad days. You can't be in a bad mood. You show up every day, choose to be in a good mood, and choose to lead with a smile on your face. And that consistency is what is an absolute must for a manager.
It's a fairly loaded question, but is it almost easy to take Jose Ramirez for granted because he puts up basically the same great season year after year?
I don't think you take him for granted. I think it's just that Jose does it every day. It's that consistency, and he doesn't get talked about enough. You talk to people in the industry, they know, but the outside world just doesn't know how good this guy is and the teammate that he is. And I know we don't take him for granted one bit, and it's just so much fun and a pleasure to watch him play every night.
Do you worry that, if you don't drastically improve this team, that you're wasting another year of his career, so to speak? He's 33. He keeps churning out MVP seasons, and you guys keep you win, but you don't get to the ultimate.
Yeah, we just got to keep working. I think, for Hosey, I wouldn't put any limits on him with his determination, his work ethic, his ability. But we need to get better, and we're working. We're working right now to get this team better because we have the pieces. We just have to put in the work.
Is there anything that you can take from the way that the Blue Jays carried the leaps that they made as a group offensively during the season? We're really able to carry that out through the playoffs, which is hard to do. Is there anything I'm watching the way they went about it that you could take away from that?
Every team's different. Our personnel is very different than their personnel, but I think just that consistency of offense, the way that they put the ball in play, I think every team can learn from that. So, but they also had the hitters to do it. So, a lot of this comes down to us getting our individual players better and help them understand who they are as hitters, so that they can go out and be at their best every night.
At times, outside of the power, they look like you. I mean, they play your kind of brand baseball. You played, I guess you played the same kind of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good fundamental baseball, and we have to play good fundamental baseball to win games, and our guys did that more often than they didn't last year. I watched a few games. I was not locked in. I have kids, and they have sports. I'd rather go be dad at practice than watch a World Series game, but I watched quite a bit.
It's a good series.
It was a really good series. All right.
obviously bringing a lefty reliever off the bottom side, anytime touch 100 from the left side, you got to be pretty excited. What did you learn about Ferrer?
Yeah. Obviously it's always tough losing, someone like Harry who's come up to the organization, catcher. But obviously excited for him and his opportunity. But to get Ferrer, I think is big for us, and a big arm, a guy that has, like you said, a ton of upside. And I think the thing for him that's exciting is he's got some back end of the game, the high leverage situation experiences, and that will help too. And when you look at the year that Gabe had, outstanding season for Gabe, and to have another lefty that can spell him as well, and kind of add to that arsenal down there, especially late in the game, is huge. And so I think that was a great play, and really excited to see how our bullpen is now shaping up.
Especially post-trade deadline, missing power lefty.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way our bullpen threw all season long, I thought our bullpen was really tough, and I think at times having another lefty is always helpful. And like I said, Gabe had to shoulder a lot all the way through the season, and he was able to do that and do it well. But this, I think, does set us up really well. There's teams that really stack the lineup with lefties, and especially against our right-handed starters, and to be able to to kind of thwart that at different times in the game is going to be huge. And so I think adding Ferrer is a big step in that right direction.
Given the workload that Munoz and Gabe and Luzardo are having, Matt come back fully healthy, and then adding Ferrer and even some other pieces, it seems like it sets up a little bit better together.
Yeah, and I think the way our starters typically get you 5-6 innings pretty consistently, to have 7, 8, and 9 with the guys that you're talking about, and the power that you're talking about is huge, and it does set you up for shortening the game a bit. And so I'm really excited with the way things have shaped up, and this trade was big for that.
You mentioned you're excited for Harry's opportunity. I mean, he was pretty flawed. He wasn't going to play a lot if he was healthy. He has a chance to go on and play more. As much as it's tough to lose him, you like the kid. You've known him forever. You want to see him have success.
Yeah, we all love the kid, and it's interesting. I talked to him on the phone, and he kind of getting traded at a very similar time in his career that it was when I was traded in my career, and get you a little bit of big league time, and then you get traded, and I think for him, there is a great opportunity for him in Washington, and again, he's kind of a guy that's been from the East Coast. He's a little bit more familiar out there, and I'm excited for him, and there is some familiarity with some of the players, as he mentioned to me. So, he's not going into a blind situation for him, and a chance to play is what every player wants. And I think Harry in Washington will be able to get that opportunity.
Do you have any thoughts on backups? I'm sure you know some catchers around the game. You need to bring in a backup.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's will definitely be a priority as we go forward here, and obviously, Garv does such a great job for us last year, and the two of those guys together worked very well, so we'll see how it goes this offseason. But certainly, the way Cal developed last year, the amount that he caught. It's a role that is going to be pretty unique in terms of that, but I'm excited to see where we land with it.
Speaking of Cal, this is probably the first time we'll ask. I'm sure again it's been training, but just given how much it went the season, how do you see this stage of the season?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I was amazed. As I've told him, like I kept waiting for that moment where it looked physically like he was starting to drag, and it really never came from what I could see. And he just was able to sustain himself so well. I think his training and the work that he puts into it is really what helps him, be able to handle the load. Having said that, I think we'll continue to watch, and I think going into next year, again, using the DH role is helpful for sure. But hopefully getting him more off days from time to time than he had last year He is 1 year older, and so you start to weigh a lot of those different things. What he has meant to our club, it's tough to give him those days off, but in the long run, you've got to do that.
Did you talk to Josh a lot trying in the recruitment to get him to come back? Did you talk to him at all? How excited you are?
Yeah, I mean, I had talked to him during the season and just let him understand how much I wanted him to come back to this club, and I think everybody wanted him to come back. He is, what he brought to our club when he came, the leadership, the intensity, all the stuff that he brought. I think everybody really responded to that and responded to it well, whether it was coaches, players, wherever it was. And so getting him back, I think, was huge. And just to see the response, not only from players and coaches, but also from the people in Seattle. I mean, he's a guy that had that immediate impact, and the fans really took to him. And seeing his smile, seeing his joy when he came to Seattle for the signing. It's just, I think it's a great match and one that I think is going to, really, really pay dividends for us going forward. He's an incredible player, an incredible leader, and we're looking forward to having him for a lot more years. Yeah, I think in some ways it's similar. We do have a similar team, and there's still work for us to be done, and a goal out there that we want to get to and get to badly. So from that standpoint, I think things are the same. Obviously, having a little bit more experience in the role is helpful, but this is the time of year where you really start to look forward to 26 and what's ahead and how we want to approach it. And we have staff calls and we meet with players and, really starting to put our energy in that direction. And so I think a lot of it, feels the same. And we've got a similar club. Offensively, we've done some great stuff. On the mound, we've done some great stuff. And we need to continue that and know that, we're coming at this from a different expectation level. And in a lot of ways, we've raised the floor for our club. And I think, we're all excited about that, what that means. And bringing that consistency and that energy from day one all the way through the season. Yeah, I think that is this time of year also. That's what you do, and you're trying to look ahead for 26 based on a lot of what went on in 25. And I think when you look at a lot of the things we did were very positive, and that's exciting. That's to know, especially when we hopefully will have a lot of the same guys back, and knowing what to expect from each other and the preparation that went into it, all the things that, all the routines, all the things that guys do to get ready for the season, not that you just roll it back again, but you can continue to work that way and continue to improve on those processes as well. So that's what we're doing this time of year is looking at how we can improve and how we can get better. And we did come up a little short. It was very abrupt. And there was a sting to it for sure. But at the same time, we know now a lot more about what it takes to get there and how hard it is. And, that inspires all of us, I think, to work harder and continue to find that consistency to get there.
See Tony and Chris and some of them whistle leave and go Yeah, how difficult was it for you to see some of your coaches leave for other places? I know you're really tight with Tony and some of those guys, even Andy McKay.
Yeah, obviously it's tough. I think one of the things that we pride ourselves on here in our organization is the people that we have. And we get close, and of course, you work together, and baseball is you become very, very tight. So to lose, coaches is hard. It's difficult, but you're excited for them too. I mean, they've got bigger and better opportunities elsewhere, and so you're excited for them, and the game is rewarding them. But it's also difficult in a way, but I think the folks that we've hired, behind them, I think is exciting. I think we've got 3 guys that will bring some new energy, new innovation, new ideas, new thoughts. I think that's what we're looking forward to, and we will continue to work hard. Our staff, I can't say enough, and you guys know it throughout the year, just how good of a job they do day in and day out to prepare our guys, and I'm excited to bring these new guys into the fold, and we've got the experience on our staff to take them in, and to really, again, to get our guys ready on a daily basis to play.
Ken, what do you think Cole and Ben, learn from their first season? They're going to be guys that you may look to have to play more roles this year. They've had tough spots, both of them. What did you think they took away from this?
Yeah, we talked to both of those guys here in the offseason already, and really praised the work that they did. It's not easy coming up as a young player like that, and contributing the way in which they did. And when you look at the job that Ben did at third base, the way he swung the bat, some of his at bats that he just grinded out and gave us some really tough at bats. And then Cole coming up, being comfortable. The defense that he played, the power that he showed, some of the consistency he showed from the left side, all of that was, you don't see that very often. And I think, again, lends itself to just how strong the organization is. And you can trace that back to all the departments, whether it's scouting and player development, all the way through. These guys are getting prepared in the right way, and they're getting prepared so that when they get here, they can contribute, almost immediately. And when you see Ben doing what he did immediately, and Cole doing what he did, and even Harry to some degree when he came up at the end of the year, these guys making an impact. And I'm looking forward to seeing Ben and Cole as they continue to develop as people, as players, and see where they're at in spring training, and get ready for them to get ready for the season.
With Ben in particular, just the first jump 2 weeks into the season, just what did you learn about him, his work ethic, and then obviously defense? What impressed you most?
Yeah, I think the thing that impresses me the most about Ben is where he's at mentally. He's very strong, and he has a really good idea and a good plan for where he's going. And even, in talking to him in the off season here, he's already got his plan in place for where he wants to be, and the workouts he wants to, pursue. So he's a kid that has a very clear vision of where he wants to go. And the work he put in, it's not a hard-headedness. It's not a stubbornness. It's a plan, but he's also willing to listen and be coached. And he is, a coach's dream. And, the defense he showed obviously was phenomenal. Perry has just praised him up and down, and has worked with him and really, developed into a great third baseman. So it's been fun to watch that. I think he gained some confidence from that, and the bat is definitely something that is coming, and his right field approach has been outstanding. And with a year of experience, and a year of aging, I think will really help him to get to where he wants to get to with the bat too.
We've heard a lot about Cole Emerson in the last couple of years. Obviously, his star continues to rise. Just what a little bit you've been around him. We saw him early October in scrimmages too. Just what were your impressions, takeaways from him?
Yeah, I think with Cole, a lot has been said about his physical ability, which is warranted for sure. Great physical tools that he has, but I think he also has those intangibles. A guy that just wants to win, and I think with a lot of our guys on our club that are in that clubhouse, that's what drives them, is winning. When you've got that up and down your organization, you're in a really good spot. And again, give a lot of credit to everybody in the organization that has help to foster that. And Colt is one of those guys that wants to win and he wants to compete. So that's something that really drives him. And when someone is, in that space, it's tough to deny.
He's 20 years old. Is that something you go into spring training with an open mind about, letting him showcase what he can do?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think spring training this year with the WBC and the impact it'll have on our club will be an opportunity for guys to show what they can do. He's certainly one of them that will get some playing time as he did last year. So it'll be, I think it'll be fun to watch and see where he's at.
How much is that baked into how you guys are approaching the roster construction this offseason? I'd like to get at least one more bat, also knowing that these guys are continuing to develop.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something that we don't stop, and I think our guys understand that. Even some of our veteran guys understand that, and I think when you have, the Edgar Martinez's and the Kevin Seitzer, the Bobby Magianis's that are, leading the charge on the hitting side, there's always something to learn. And the more you play this game, the more you're in this game, the more you realize just how much there is to learn. So our guys will always continue to develop, and that is a big part of it. The work they're putting in now will pay dividends down the line here and in spring training and into the season. So I think it's important that they're working on the right stuff and they know that. I think as we continue to build our roster for the future and those are all the things that we think about and talk about. And it's important that these guys are in a good spot when they get to the big leagues so that they can impact quickly. And that's what they've been able to do.
Yeah, we know that Cal is playing in the WBC. How many other guys are you anticipating that are going to play in the WBC? I would assume your center fielder probably wants to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite a demand for some of our guys, and I think it's a great honor to know that these guys are sought after in that way, and it's an honor for those guys to be able to support their country and play for their country and represent them in the WBC. And I have not been through that process before, but from what I understand, it's very it's awesome, it's competitive, it's a great experience. So however many guys it ends up being, we will certainly be excited for them and the opportunity that they have. And I know we'll probably be missing some players and we'll be missing some coaches as well that'll be going to represent some countries. So as far as numbers are concerned, it's hard to know at this point, but we'll know here shortly. And but again, I think it's a great experience for them.
We could audition a catcher, I guess, with Cal being gone. You have a lot of opportunities for catchers to get playing time.
Yeah, no doubt, and certainly with Harry now, on his departure, there will be some spaces to fill there, and during that WBC stretch. So, again, opportunities for young guys, opportunities for players to make an impact, I think is always a good thing, especially in spring training, and there's going to be some of those in part because of the WBC.
What you checking in with the guys? Are you going to see any of them? Are you calling them? I know Cal's up in Seattle now.
Yeah, Cal's up in Seattle. I saw Nails when he was in town for the signing, and a couple guys down here have had a chance to visit in Florida. So, I mean, it's always kind of a nice time of year to meet up with guys. It's just a different perspective this time of year, and like you mentioned, being able to, or Daniel mentioned, being able to reflect on last year and learn some things and talk about what we're going to do differently in 26. And it's always good to get together with guys, and we'll look for opportunities to do that throughout the offseason.
Have you had a chance to give some thought into how you're going to develop the protocols that you'll use in dealing with the new strike system?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of guys have used it already, in AAA and kind of in some ways perfected those protocols in some ways. And it's something as a coaching staff, as we get a little closer to spring training, we'll discuss and talk about. But it's going to obviously be a different phenomenon for baseball, but not totally out of the blue, since a lot of the guys have already kind of dealt with it. We did deal with it in spring training last year as well. So, I think it'll definitely change things a little bit, but I think we'll be ready for it when the time comes.
As a former catcher, is this yet another thing that managers are going to be leaning heavily on the guys behind the plate, especially the pitching side of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think our experience last year is our catchers have a really good idea of the strike zone, and not only behind the plate but also at the plate. And a lot of the challenges, they look to when they're hitting are they're upheld or whatever it is that however it goes. But I think obviously it's going to be. It's kind of a wait and see kind of thing. Who's good at it? Who isn't good at it? Those kinds of things will kind of shake themselves out pretty quickly. But it'll certainly create a different challenge for us. But I think this is a good way to go at it. I think in terms of using technology to help the game, and I think the challenge system is the right next step. Huh?
Not Randy, right? I think he was like 0 for 6.
Hey, some guys are It's just we'll see who's good at it and who's not. Thank you guys. Yeah, good seeing all of you.
He was not. Sometimes he was like, he'll just, on those, some of those, he just stands there and watches that and going check. I don't know if you guys noticed there was a
years, a guy that's used to pitching on high leverage and closing experience, and
yeah, I mean, we're looking for help down there, and the fact that we got one here, I was excited.
You had any interaction with Pete in the offseason and just kind of, I mean, how do you feel? How much do you want Pete back and how big a piece is he?
I texted a couple of times with him, but obviously giving him his space, kind of like the same process that we went through last year. As far as how much do I want him, of course I want him. You know, you're talking about, you know, a guy that, as a manager, his ability to post, you know, every day, when you don't have to worry about who's playing first base and who's going to be hitting in the middle of your lineup, you know, you can beat that. So again, he earned it. He's going through the process right now, and I think David's been very vocal how much we want him. But you know, we'll see how it goes here.
Is it all difficult from your chair, Mindy? Obviously, he's a free agent, but he has the right to go out and talk to everyone he wants to. But is it difficult to kind of sit back and know that it is a process and he's going to go talk to other teams? He's going to go.
Yeah, I guess you know, the more you do it, you know, you're kind of used to it now. You know, like last year, I was kind of like waiting, you know, waiting for that text from David or a call. Now you just got to let it play out. You know, there's a lot of back and forth from so many people that, you know, as a manager, you just kind of sit back and wait. So.
Also, going into the offseason, did you expect the kind of movement you guys traded him, Cornerstone, for the franchise beloved fan favorite? Were you surprised by that, or did you expect that kind of move to be done?
Not really. You know, it wasn't an easy decision. And when David gave me a call, I kind of paused for a little bit, to be honest with you, because of how much Brandon represented and what he meant to the team, right? But at the same time, when you're talking about a guy coming back like Marcus Semien with, you know, a lot of the same traits, right? Like qualities, makeup, proven winner, you're like, okay, all right, you know, and also give us the ability to improve our defense on the right side of the infield. But yeah, it was a tough one, you know. Wishing Brandon nothing but the best because, you know, as a manager, you know, he represented, you know, everything. So, but again, excited to have a player that caliber like Marcus. So.
With Simeon now occupying second base, how do you view third base? Obviously, second base, you can use that to kind of get some of the other guys playing time, but now you don't have that much of a wonder.
Yeah, look, I think Brett Beatty took that step forward last year. You know, we felt like we had a tryout there between Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio at times, and Brett Beatty kind of just got comfortable and played really well, from both sides of the field, you know, defensively, offensively, and going into camp. I think as we sit here right now, you could say that Brett will get the majority of the playing time. That doesn't mean that Mark Vientos won't get any reps there, you know, and he's preparing for everything, you know, like we know how much he means to the team. And like I said, we'll see what happens, but Brett Beatty, as of right now, will get a lot of the opportunities.
When you have a situation like that, there are players who maybe don't see an everyday spot. How do you communicate to them that they're still?
Yeah, there's constant communication with them, not only during the season, but during the off season. I met with Vientos not too long ago, you know, face to face, just to kind of check with them. But again, a lot can happen between now and March, whenever opening day is, right? But once you get to the regular season, you have to communicate with those guys day in and day out. At times they're not going to like it because they want to be in the lineup, they want to play, but also just be transparent and honest with them. So, and that's how I will continue to approach that situation.
Vientos said that he's taking defensive reps this winter at third and at first. Do you anticipate him playing more first base, you know, especially if Alonso doesn't resign?
Yeah, we'll see what happens here, but we're preparing him for every scenario. You know, like we're not throwing third base out of the window. He's working a lot at first base, but again, a lot can happen. So the one thing I told him is just control the things you can control, you know, and that's putting yourself in the best position and show up to camp and ready to compete.
How do you create chemistry, cohesion in the clubhouse when you have such a big roster overhaul, but also such a huge change to your coaching staff as well?
Yeah, we're talking about the coaching staff, yeah, we lost so many coaches and good people, and not easy decisions, especially from the chair where I'm sitting as a manager. You develop so many relationships with these guys; they become part of your family. But at the same time, I'm excited about the coaching staff and some of the guys that we were able to bring on board. You're talking about continuity in the team chemistry. We brought up 4 guys from player development. Guys that are so used to our players, our processes, our system, their relationship with players. So I was very proud of the fact that, you're not only promoting players, but you're also giving a chance to some of the coaches that are grinding in the minor leagues. And, that provides a lot of that continuity in that team chemistry that you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not going to get on the back and forth there. The one thing I'll tell you is, as an organization, our job is to put together a roster that is going to help us reach the ultimate goal, which is win a World Series. And in order for us to do that, we need our players healthy, playing on the field, performing at the highest level, whether they're position players, whether pitchers, starters, relievers. And when you look at the numbers, the facts are right there. We were probably one of the teams that protected the bullpen guys better than anybody. And you're talking about we were able to do that with so little length that we were getting from the starters. I don't think this is a Mets issue. I think this is an industry that this year we were dealing with a lot of injuries. But like I said, I'm comfortable with the process too. When you're talking about guys who's available, there's so many people, so many conversations that happen throughout the day. As soon as you get to the ballpark, you're talking to the pitching coaches, you're talking to the trainers, you're talking to the players. And then once the game starts, you have a pretty good idea who's available and who's not. And that's when I make the decisions there. So, but I feel pretty comfortable in saying that we are one of the better teams that protect the relievers. So.
Carlos, a year ago, you guys had just signed Juan Soto at this time. You're coming off a deep October run. This year it was a lot different. You've already made a pretty big clubhouse trade with Nimmo. The coaching staff is new. Does it feel very unsettled right now as you guys are trying to get ready? I know it's early in the off season, but just how much of a different feel is it this year, this off season compared to last?
Yeah, I mean,
it
look,
seems like the momentum has kind of been stopped a little bit.
Yeah, and when you don't play well, that happens, right? A team that had so much expectations, and we didn't even make it to the playoff. Free agents, coaches, but here we are. We have a really good opportunity, and you just have to embrace the challenge. So, and I'm excited about that, and really looking forward to get going.
On those same lines, how do you assess kind of your job as a manager last season? Obviously, is there anything maybe you could have done?
Not good enough. When you're talking about a team that went into the season with so much expectations and we fell short, that falls on me as a manager, and I got to be better. So when you're talking about assessing the job, I fell short, and here we are working towards the goal of not only playing in October, but deep into October. So
What specifically do you think you could be better
at everything, relationship, communication, processes, 2024 was really, really good. And then you fell short, and you kind of got to take a minute and sit back here and, look yourself in the mirror and how can you get better? And I think it starts with that. I'm always being a guy that takes pride on communicating and creating an environment where people are really looking forward to come to work. And when you're not winning games and when it gets hard, you got to take a step back and reflect and make those decisions where can I get better? So, and here we are.
There are reports of tension in the clubhouse, especially during the latter half of the season. I mean, how much were you aware of that, and do you believe that was an issue for you?
I mean, it's amazing that, and I'm not going to get into what happens in the clubhouse, obviously stays there, but nowadays for the past 2 weeks, it feels like we were fighting with each other pretty much every day. And that's wrong, because nobody talk about our clubhouse, when we got to the second week of June with the best record on baseball. We had the best clubhouse, and then we started losing, and now everybody's talking about, some of the issues. Like, we had a professional clubhouse, guys respected each other, guys enjoyed being around each other. We just didn't play well on the field. and that translates into whatever people call vibe, team chemistry. But at the end of the day, guys showed up and they respected each other. So.
Where do you see Ryan Mauricio fitting in, and how are you guys going to be able to get him enough reps given all the infielders?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it's the same case that I'm talking about, like Mark Vientos, controlling the thing that he can control. It's good to see him playing winning ball and playing well. I just saw him last week and had breakfast with him. He's in a very good place. He's got to come in and compete for a spot on our roster. You know, there's flexibility there. I think the biggest thing is for him to be healthy. You know, if we get a healthy version of Ronnie Mauricio, he's an impactful player.
Is there anywhere beyond second, short, and third that you can get him defensively for those three positions for him?
Yeah, if he's healthy, you're looking at, you know, a pretty versatile player. They can play second, short, and third base. So.
You talk some about the coaching career. With thinking about what you see, do you expect your next starting to?
Yeah, I mean, look, Anton was a really good coach. You know, I consider him as a friend. Now, well, he's my enemy now. He's with the Braves, right? But I'm excited about Gilbert Gomez. You know, this is a guy that is very respectful in the game, a lot of knowledge, good people skills, and he earned it. You know, he earned the opportunity to be in the big leagues. And as far as like the base running goes, I feel good with the group of people that are going to be able to impact our players and continue to help them improve in their game.
David has talked about how you guys are prioritizing, run prevention as a theme throughout this winter. Was that something that went into consideration when building the staff, just in terms of the other pieces, maybe on the defensive side?
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty aggressive, and we went after Kai Correa. You know, this is a guy that is known around the industry as one of the best defensive coach there is in the league, you know, and he comes with a lot of experience coaching-wise in those areas, especially on the defensive side, infield defense. Also experienced as the bench coach. So when we got done, and I remember having those conversations with David, we knew that we needed to identify some of those names, and Kai kind of, stuck out, and we were pretty aggressive there.
When it comes to run prevention, how does that affect how you, change spring training or how you approach spring training this year?
Well, it starts with the personnel, right? We're talking about pitching and defense, and we added a pretty good second baseman there now on Marcus. So, but as far as like spring training goes, yeah, we might do things a little different, but we always stress fundamentals. We always stress attention to details like that. We're not going to shy away from that. It's not like we're going to be doing extra work, but I think it starts with the personnel, and we're doing that right now.
Is given Juan Soto at bats at DH?
He doesn't like DHing, so he takes pride of being a good defender, and he will continue to do so, So I'm pretty sure schedule will dictate. Sometimes they're dealing with physical stuff that you're trying to keep his bat in the lineup. The DH might come to play, but if he's feeling good enough, he's going to be out there in right field. Yeah, I watch a lot of films, talk to a lot of our people in player development. Exciting player, a guy that impact the baseball, controls the strike zone, pretty good defender, the makeup. There's a lot to like about this kid. I keep hearing his name since we drafted him. And here he is, putting himself in a position where he's going to show up in spring training, ready to compete for a spot on our roster. I don't think I hear you. If I feel he could get better?
Yeah, like do you think he could improve on year two after a really good season year one, like have a full season?
Yeah, look, this is a guy that is determined to be, one of the greatest players that ever played the game, and like I said earlier, he wants to be coached, he wants to be challenged. And I just saw him last week, and he's pretty impressive, his routine and the way he prepares every day. He's not satisfied with, personal numbers. He wants to win. He wants to win a World Series. That's his goal, and he's working towards that. So I'm excited about year two from Juan Soto here with the Mets, and I can't wait.
The trio of young arms that came up at the end of the year, Sproul and Tommy McLean. Do you anticipate them being up for the entirety of 2026? Like, are the training wheels off there? Are they fully big league starters right now?
If they're fully starters right now?
Fully, like at the big league level. Do you anticipate them contributing?
Oh yeah, I mean they're gonna play a big role on our season, right? You're talking about having depth and things like that. But again, who knows what's gonna happen from here to whenever we report to spring training and once we get to New York. But those guys, they're exciting. You know, they show flashes. Obviously, McLean was really, really good for us. Pro was outstanding, and Jonah has some ups and downs. You know, but they're all three of them are pretty impressive, and we're counting on all of them. ¿Qué quieres que te diga en español?
Bueno, Carlos, luego de una temporada muy mala para los Mets y yendo a tu último año de contrato, ¿qué tanta presión y expectativas tú tienes en el 2026?
Sí, mira, cuando tú hablas de la temporada pasada, pues no fue una temporada decepcionante para nosotros, un equipo con muchas expectativas y no pudimos jugar en octubre. Eso dice mucho del fracaso como que tuvimos como equipo. A lo que se refiere con mi contrato y todas esas cosas, mira, cuando tú estás en esta silla de manager de grandes ligas, siempre esa silla está caliente y uno no puede estar pensando en eso. Mi trabajo es ser la mejor versión de Carlos Mendoza, cómo yo puedo impactar a los peloteros, cómo yo puedo impactar a la organización y al final del día, pues los resultados, que es ganar juegos de pelota. Y eso es lo que estamos trabajando en esta temporada muerta, pues hemos hecho unos cambios mayores en el equipo de piezas que han sido importantes y también muy contento con lo que hemos obtenido. Falta mucho todavía por recorrer, pero de verdad bastante emocionado por lo que hemos conseguido hasta el momento.
¿Qué tú piensas de todos esos rumores de chismes que había en el clubhouse?
Lo que tú acabas de decir, chisme. Es impresionante que nadie hablaba del clubhouse de nosotros y en las últimas 2 semanas, pues lo que se escucha es bulla de que prácticamente lo que la gente está haciendo, lo sabes, como que estamos peleándonos todos los días, cuando es completamente lo contrario a la realidad. Era un clubhouse profesional, donde los muchachos se respetaban, donde los muchachos venían a trabajar y a competir el día a día. ¿Cuál fue la diferencia? Que no ganamos juegos de pelota. Nadie hablaba del clubhouse de nosotros por los 2 primeros meses y medio de temporada cuando teníamos el mejor récord. Nadie hablaba del clubhouse. Pasaron 2 meses y medio malísimos de pelota, entonces ahora todo el mundo está hablando de los problemas, cuando es completamente mentira. Pero es parte del mercado, es parte de lo que nosotros vivimos en Nueva York, donde cualquier cosita pues se convierte en algo súper, la noticia es una cosa increíble. Pero yo de verdad bastante orgulloso de los muchachos que tenemos en el clubhouse, de cómo nosotros representamos la organización y vamos a seguir añadiendo pues personalidades que nos ayudan a conseguir pues la meta que es ganar una serie mundial.
Incluyendo un pitcher como Framber Valdez.
Mira, eso es, yo creo que el gerente de nosotros, David Stearns, ha dicho pues que nosotros estamos hablando con todos los peloteros que están disponibles. Pues. Obviamente sabemos la calidad de lanzador que es él y mira, yo como manager voy a ser aquí un poquito egoísta, yo quiero que me traigan todo lo que sea, ¿no? Pero vamos a esperar a ver qué pasa. Yeah, not an easy one, and I enjoy working with him. You know, I consider him a friend, obviously, and he's well respected within the industry. But you know, when you had the type of season that we had, whether it was injury, performance, tough decisions are going to be made, and we had to make some tough decisions. And that was, you know, obviously, I'm not going to get into the details, but it wasn't an easy one. Obviously, I knew it wasn't going to take long, you know, and he's now in our division, but I enjoyed working with him.
Thank you, Carlos.
All right.